Welcome to the City Council meeting tonight. This is the third part of our meeting, the actual business session. We're glad you're here. The mayor, Juan Wade, is in Ghana right now. He'll be back later this week, so I'm standing in for him tonight. We'll start our meeting tonight with a moment of silence, please. Thank you. Are there any announcements? In addition to, we have some proclamations tonight. I know we'd also like to announce the first full week of May as Public Service Recognition Week and Professional Municipal Clerks Week. We have an amazing staff here in the city. We're very proud of them. And the public service folks keep our roads and walkways and the projects going for us, and we're very grateful for them. We're also grateful for our municipal clerk Thomas and her staff keep all of us on council headed in the right direction. So we want to thank all of those folks. And we do have some proclamations. We'll let Councilor Payne go first, please. And if this is the letter carriers, if Mr. Lowry and Mr. Eastman would like to come forward and receive the proclamation when he's done.
Sure. This is a proclamation for letter carriers Stamp Out Hunger Food Drive Day, whereas every year on the second Saturday in May, letter carriers across the country collect non-perishable food as part of the nation's largest one-day food drive, distributing the donations to local food banks. And whereas the letter carriers Stamp Out Hunger Food Drive is just one example of how letter carriers work to make a difference in the lives of those they serve. Since the pilot food drive in 1991, more than 1.9 billion pounds of food have been collected. And whereas the city of Charlottesville wishes to recognize all letter carriers for their hard work and their commitment to their communities, but especially those in our own community whose efforts bring benefit to those in need here in Charlottesville, in the Charlottesville area. And whereas we also recognize the noteworthy milestone of 33 years that the National Association of Letter Carriers Food Drive celebrates in 2025, now therefore the Charlottesville City Council proclaims the 10th day of May 2025 as Letter Carriers Food Drive Day in the city of Charlottesville, and we encourage the residents of our community to support the food drive by placing non-perishable food items in or near your mailbox on Food Drive Day. Your letter carrier will pick it up while delivering mail, and together we can help feed those in hunger. Signed and sealed this 5th day of May 2025.
Anything you'd like to say, sir?
Just very briefly, thank you so much, City Council. We really appreciate the proclamation. Excuse me. We hope to continue doing this for many years in the future, and we can't do it without help from folks like you and the rest of the community, and thanks mostly to the people of Charlottesville who generously donate year after year. So thank you.
And one more time, what day should people leave out their goods?
Very good. It's this coming Saturday, May 10th.
Sounds great.
Great.
Thank you. Right.
Thank you for your work as a mail carrier.
Appreciate it.
Yep. All right, next up is Bike Month.
And before that, I actually do have one small announcement, which is this Sunday is this month's iteration of the Neighborhood Walks. We'll be doing, led by the Charlottesville Bike and Ped Advisory Committee. This month it will be in Woolen Mills, so meet at 1 o'clock at the Wolf Factory for a 3-mile-ish gentle walk around the neighborhood.
Great.
Okay, now Bike Month. Bike Month 2025, whereas bicycling is a healthy, clean, efficient, and affordable mode of transportation and recreation used by thousands of citizens and residents of all ages throughout our great Commonwealth and city, and whereas traveling by bicycle has been proven to alleviate traffic congestion and reduce pollution associated with vehicular travel, and offer significant mental and physical health benefits to bicyclists themselves, and whereas the city of Charlottesville has undertaken ambitious goals to reduce greenhouse gas emissions and is committed to providing more multimodal transportation options options for all residents. And whereas Charlottesville, Albemarle County, and the University of Virginia, alongside a large cohort of businesses, agencies, and community groups, are hosting many bicycling events that promote awareness, safety, new travel options, as well as building community. And whereas these groups and many others are also promoting the use of the bicycle as both the means of transportation and recreation year-round to improve community health, economic vitality, environmental stewardship, and the simple joy of being active outdoors. Now, therefore, be it resolved that the Charlottesville City Council recognizes the month of May 2025 as Bike Month in the city of Charlottesville, encouraging all who support bicycling to participate in the events planned and urging all road users to share the road safely. And I would like to add that you can find out more about Bike Month by visiting bikeseville.com. There's a calendar of events. This past weekend, there was a kickoff ride on Friday from JPA down to Fridays After 5, where there was a bike valet. There's going to be bike valets all month long at Fridays After 5. Then Sunday was Family Bike Day, and we had tons of people show up to test out bikes, to ride the new portable pump track, and to be outside and learn how to change tires and fix things, and just a good family day for all. So more events like that all throughout the month. So again, bikeseville.com.
Great, thank you so much. Our next proclamation will be the Adult Abuse Prevention Month read by Councilor Snook.
So, whereas adults of all ages, particularly older adults and adults with disabilities, deserve to live with dignity, independence, and free from abuse, neglect, and exploitation. And whereas adult abuse is a pervasive issue that can take many forms, including physical, emotional, sexual, and financial abuse, as well as neglect and self-neglect. And whereas abuse of vulnerable adults often goes unreported and unrecognized, making it imperative to educate the public, caregivers, and professionals about the warning signs and reporting mechanisms. And whereas the Virginia Department for Aging and Rehabilitative Services, Adult Protective Services, local human service agencies, law enforcement, healthcare providers, and community organizations are all committed to preventing and addressing adult abuse through education, advocacy, and support services. And whereas raising awareness and promoting public engagement are essential to preventing abuse and ensuring that older and vulnerable adults can lead secure and empowered lives within our community. And whereas the City of Charlottesville recognizes the importance of fostering safe, inclusive, and supportive environments for all adults, and reaffirms its commitment to protecting the rights and well-being of its residents. Now, therefore, be it resolved that the Charlottesville City Council proclaims May 2025 as Adult Abuse Prevention Month in the City of Charlottesville, Virginia, and we urge all community members to recognize the signs of adult abuse, to support prevention efforts, and to advocate for the protection and empowerment of older and vulnerable adults in our community. Be it further resolved that the City of Charlottesville commits to supporting efforts to prevent adult abuse, to protect vulnerable adults, and to promote a community where all individuals can live with dignity and respect. Signed and sealed this 5th day of May, 2025. And is this to be presented to somebody in
I
particular?
think someone from
Is it-
staff, perhaps?
Happy to give it to somebody.
Go to Deputy City Manager Marshall.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. All right, thank you. So we're now at the Community Matters section of the meeting. Currently, there are 3 pre-registered speakers, leaving 13 slots for additional speakers on Community Matters. Each speaker will have up to 3 minutes to speak. We'll now open the floor to pre-registered speakers. Is our first speaker available? Have Alicia Lenham.
Good evening. My name is Alicia Lenahan. I live at Villa Verde Lane, 22902. Thank you for the opportunity to speak. I'm submitting these remarks as a retired attorney, an American citizen, resident of the Commonwealth of Virginia, and your constituent. The actions taken by agents of the Immigration, Customs, and Enforcement on Wednesday, April 23rd at the Albemarle County Courthouse and their subsequent threats are profoundly troubling and dangerous for everyone in this community. The administration and Governor Youngkin are intent on labeling all immigrants as dangerous criminals committing assault, rape, and murder without regard to the facts or the law. This is evidenced by the egregious mistakes made by ICE in recent weeks. Kilmer Abrego Garcia rendered to El Salvador by mistake. American children, one undergoing cancer treatment, rendered to Honduras. In Oklahoma, a mother and her 3 daughters were terrorized when 20 heavily armed men executed an apparent no-knock warrant on their home by mistake. Governor Youngkin issued an executive order on February 2025 directing state law enforcement and corrections officers to assist with federal immigration and requesting that localities fully cooperate with ICE. It's my understanding that the Secretary of Public Safety and Homeland Security requested a certification from local and regional jail authorities confirming their full cooperation with ICE. The action on April 23rd took place independent of the jail. The judge dismissed the case of one individual. The other was in the courthouse to pay a fine. It's unclear how ICE learned about their presence. These events are intended to terrorize all of us, our immigrant and refugee neighbors, their advocates, and anyone who is standing up for decency, democracy, and the rule of law. The courthouse is located in the city. Fear ignores government boundaries. It is only a matter of time before federal agents show up in a Charlottesville court, at a public school, at a library, at a hospital, or even here. What can we expect? Has the City Council agreed to cooperate in advance? Has the City Police Department agreed to cooperate? The actions of the federal government are becoming increasingly aggressive and lawless. The residents of this country, this state, and this community need and deserve heroic leadership. Will you accept that responsibility? According to the Heaphy report, the city government failed to protect this community on August 11th and 12th, 2017. Will you protect us this time?
Thank you very
Finally,
much.
since March, thousands of people have lined the streets of Charlottesville to protect and defend democracy. We will stand up for you when you stand up for us.
Thank you. Rosenda Milano. Please tell us your address, sir.
2740 Lonesome Mountain Road, Charlottesville, Virginia.
Thank you. Okay,
My name, Rosendo Fuquen Molano.
thank you.
I am here to present to you my idea of a change of the statue of Lewis Clark and Sacagawea. The objective is to return the statue to the place where it had been for many years in Charlottesville. I propose that the image was of Sacagawea, as it is in the statue now, be removed and be cast standing tall and pointing in the direction that Lewis and Clark are looking at. I would like the statue to represent our gratitude and respect for Sacagawea guidance and contribution to the expedition. I would like the Council to consider this idea as an option for the future of the statue. If it were to go forward, it needs your approval, a budget, and people to observe the process. The idea came from my encountering the statue while I walked in the park 2 years ago. Two things look out of place: the statue and Sacagawea. I have visited the statue many times since. And I have come here to present the idea out of the thoughts that I have entertained while visiting the statue. I believe my proposal could bring both the statue and Sacagawea to the right place. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Next up, Karen Mann. Please tell us your address real quick.
I am a Scottsville resident.
Okay? Okay.
Good evening. My name is Reverend Karen Mann. I do live in Scottsville, but I'm the pastor of Sojourners United Church of Christ here in the city. My congregation and I were deeply disturbed when the ICE agents entered the Albemarle County Courthouse and arrested the two men on April 23rd. I'm speaking to you tonight as a Christian pastor because that's what I am, but I know that many faiths share our belief that we are called to care for our neighbors, and especially for our immigrant neighbors. In fact, the Bible is abundantly clear that caring for the stranger is central to our faith. My church is committed to the values of radical hospitality, inclusion, diversity, and justice, and our beliefs compel us to work for the beloved community. And that's a community where all people, regardless of faith, ability, identity, race, ethnicity, or even legal status, can experience justice and live without fear. The actions of ICE in our courthouse contribute to a culture of fear and intimidation. They deny justice, and they do nothing but harm our community. Our denomination, the UCC, is part of a lawsuit against Trump's executive order that reverses decades of protection for sensitive locations, restricting ICE from conducting immigration raids, arrests, and other enforcement activities in schools, hospitals, houses of worship, and courthouses. We believe that raids conducted in churches violate the sanctity of our places of worship, but we also believe that raids in schools, hospitals, and courthouses violate the sanctity of our public communal life. These raids are cruel and unjust. People have a right to worship, to go to school, to get medical care, and to engage in their civic duties without fear and intimidation, and especially kids should not be afraid to go to school. You do not have to be a person of faith to believe that all human beings should be treated with dignity and respect. This is a basic moral value. I'm asking you, our city council, to demonstrate some courageous moral leadership in the face of the xenophobia and racism coming from the federal government. Help our community to be a place of justice and dignity for all persons. How will you protect the sensitive locations that are in this city and ensure that people can worship, go to school, get medical care, and conduct business in our courthouses without fear? I urge you to do everything you can to resist these unjust raids, to refuse to cooperate with ICE, to refuse to sign any cooperation agreements, and to protect the residents of this community, citizens and immigrants alike, because we are all humans deserving of dignity. Thank you.
Thank you very much. So we're now on our fourth speaker. If you'd like to speak, please raise your hand. Yes, sir. Please tell us your name and your address.
Hello everyone, my name's Mo. I'm at 608 Cabell Avenue. Here's an insane headline from tomorrow's paper. City Council approves funding to hand all police data to a Silicon Valley AI tech startup in its consent agenda. I'm talking about the appropriation of $150,000 in grant funding to buy CPD a one-year subscription to Peregrine. It's the seventh item. Peregrine is a tech startup founded by ex-Palantir guys that is basically a box they want you to put all your police department's data into. In return, it promises to increase police efficiency by unifying a bunch of fractured data systems into one, allowing officers to, with a single name search, see an individual's license plate, entire criminal history, any tickets they've ever gotten, even known associates. They're making the panopticon. The privacy concerns, much less the opportunities for abuse, should be self-evident. And that's before we even bring in the fact that this thing has AI written all over it. The website says that it can improve patrol by focusing deployment with supervisory analytics, which presumably means having an algorithm tell officers which neighborhoods to patrol. Don't be surprised when it recommends exactly what you think it will. It also promises to automate recurrent reporting, a polite way to say that it uses AI to generate police reports. Great! Those were already so thorough and trustworthy to begin with. Now we can literally have a machine that doesn't know what truth is make them for us. Technologies like this have already caused huge problems across the country because it enables lazy policing. Officers inevitably end up just arresting people because the system spits out a name as a possible suspect. Let's also acknowledge that Peregrine is definitely going to use the data we give them to train its AI. I don't think getting a traffic ticket constitutes consent to have all your information dumped into the automated surveillance machine. And finally, the elephant in the room, this company is centralizing all law enforcement data from agencies across the country into a single, private, for-profit Silicon Valley surveillance tech startup. Just 2 weeks ago, we watched 3 faceless thugs raid the Albemarle courtroom without a warrant to arrest 2 of our community members. Those people are gone. You think if ICE goes to Peregrine and demands they generate a list of 100 illegals in Charlottesville to arrest, these guys are gonna say no? Get real. We don't need this. We pay officers to put in legwork. All this does is enable lazy policing, offload critical work onto unreliable algorithms, and create massive opportunity for abuse, civil rights violations, and authoritarian overreach. If civil police want to improve data efficiency, they should hire someone to do that in-house, not offload all storage, management, and analytics to a private company in another state that is literally trying to build the future from Minority Report. I cannot stress enough, their website literally says, we control your data. Like that's a good thing. Do not approve this.
So thank you. Appreciate it. Yes, sir.
I'm John Hall of Fry Spring. What I want to share with the council is a recycling program. Recycling, sorting, and segregation of plastics. And I've added 4 more: paper, compost, glass, and metal. Compost, foods being food scraps, and leaves and twigs or wood only, please. Everybody knows there's 7 symbols that are triangles for plastics, for 7 types of plastics. Paper is number 8, the compost is number 9, glass is number 10, metal is number 11. A budget, $1 million for city council budget. Pay the homeless $21.50 each to do it. We'll have to get them there to wherever we locate these roll-off containers, 1 through 11 again. Each one having a vat, which would be like a child's swimming pool that's nestable, a plastic child swimming pool, so that each of the recyclables can be rinsed. Okay, we have the recycling 64-gallon containers, 2 of them, recycling container, which is currently just taken to the landfill, and composting container, as I've outlined above. The city council budget study, upon study, the money passed through to the Johnny Angel Network, 501c3, indigent, homeless, transportation, again, by cat buses with fold-out stop signs, as seen in school buses, which is good for our children in schools, it's good for our adults riding buses. Just as a final note, once we prove that this is efficacious in what we do with it, I have located about 4 different plastic houses, mold houses in Pennsylvania, where we will take the filled containers, roll-up containers with each numbered fill of plastics back to Pennsylvania, and those different mold houses will put the plastics in mills and then in hoppers and cast them into new recycling materials.
Thank you, sir.
Products.
Thank you. Appreciate that. Are you going to leave that with us? Great.
I was gonna put it on my TV show.
Okay, that's
Okay.
fine. You bring us a copy. Yeah, thank you so much. All right, next up. Yes. Please tell us your name and your address.
Hello, my name is Ketty Rupnick from 219 Langford Avenue. Okay, first of all, thank you all for providing us with the opportunity to speak and to share concerns about our community with you all. I am here to speak with you about concerns regarding speeding on our street, Langford Avenue. We've appeared before City Council. This is the second time. We've had numerous speed studies that have been done on our streets, and I'm concerned that those speed studies are not representative of the actual speeding problem that occurs on our streets. The speed measuring device has been placed in the street where you have to slow down to get around it, so naturally that's not going to provide you with reliable data that shows the speeding incidents. We had asked to have the speed study redone multiple times and were not responded to. Then eventually another speed study was conducted, and we haven't learned the results of those studies. The first study showed that there was not significantly statistical speeding issues, and that there was not an issue with speeding on our streets. I would like to highlight that although the measured speeds might not be statistically significant, they were upwards of 50 miles per hour, 45 miles per hour. As a reminder, Langford Avenue is a residential neighborhood where the speed limit is 25 miles per hour. Of the 12 homes that are on the upper part of Langford, there are 18 children that live within these 12 homes from ages 6 months to 11 years, in addition to seniors within our neighborhoods. As a parent of 2 of those children and also a family friend to all the others, I am terrified that one of these children will be seriously injured or even killed because of speeding on our street. I am asking, more so begging, that you all help us to implement some traffic calming measures within our street and protect these children while we still have the opportunity to do so. There's currently a video in each of your inboxes that was taken from my home on our Ring camera, from our front door of my family, including my 3-year-old, walking to the car, and 5 feet away is a car going down our street at 50 to 60 miles per hour. I really would appreciate if you could watch that video to show you what kind of issues we're talking about. Lastly, Councilman Pinkston, you brought this handout to my door the other week. The third bullet on here says, "Our team will ensure kids and families feel safe in their schools and neighborhoods." Currently, the children and the families on Langford Avenue do not feel safe because of the speeding issue. And I believe that putting in speed bumps or some type of traffic calming measure will do an amazing job and benefit our community greatly at a relatively reasonable cost.
Thank you. Yes. I'll come back. Ms. Hoffman?
Robin Hoffman, Caroline Avenue in Willem Mills. I'm here today because I felt compelled, because on Friday, I was walking down the mall, enjoying the art, which became projected really coolly for Fridays after 5. And so what they did was, the art teachers of the city had their students compile different artwork, and then they videoed it during the concert. So you had like this whole interaction, and the art was amazing. I have to tell you, I'm very educated in art, and I was floored. So I just want to thank all the teachers. But while I was walking around during the day, Friday, I happened upon a woman who was lying down in front of Sky Bar, or former Sky Bar. And she had no shoes on, and her shirt was up. and you could see that she was wearing a brassiere. So I kind of freaked out, but I didn't react right away. And then I said, what am I doing? I'm a nurse, whatever. So I went over to her and I said, excuse me, ma'am, do you need help? And she said, no, I'm fine. And she sounded very articulate and confident. And I know the rules about people who are challenged mentally, that they actually have rights, and it's fine. But she was no shoes and her shirt was up. And she was kind of talking to the glass too. So I said, she's in trouble and she doesn't know it. So then I said, ma'am, if you don't need help, then why don't you have any shoes on? and why are you laying on the floor? She said, no, I'm fine, thank you so much. So I'm like, no, she doesn't know she's in trouble. All right. So I called 911. And at that point, the police officer was really good communicating that they had somebody speak to a woman officer early in the morning, and that, again, it was her right to lay down on the ground, even though she was obviously in trouble, and that they were going to get some people to help her. Well, anyway, I wanted to tell you all that because it was a 911 call, and they actually followed it up. The woman police officer called me about an hour later, and they had gotten somebody to counsel the woman, and she agreed to be helped. But it's 2017, we didn't have those conversations. I want to say that's, where is the Antifa? Where's the anti-fascist people? Okay, what I want to say is please come back.
Okay, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Hello, thank you for this opportunity to speak. My name is Asa Eslocker of 214 Langford Avenue, and I have the honor of being here with my 11-year-old daughter, Violet Jennings Eslocker, as well, and we're here representing our neighborhood and the residents of Langford Avenue, just like our neighbor, Ketty Rupnick, just mentioned. We're here about the speeding, and we're here advocating for speed bumps or speed humps or some other similar type of speed management on Langford Avenue. Like Ketty said, there are around 18 children, young children on our street. Violet's the oldest. We can trust that she'll cross the street looking both ways before crossing. But there are, there's 6 or 8 young kids, ages 3 to 5, on both sides of the street. And we're seeing more and more. It's great that this neighborhood, that this community of children, we're all interacting. We've got great social solidarity and connection. We're building a social infrastructure on our street and in our neighborhood. But we're still dealing with this issue of speeding vehicles. And so we're here again to advocate with our art, with our voices, with our bodies being present, about our worry and concern about speeding vehicles on Langford Avenue. And in the spirit of Bike Safety Month, another reason why we're here to advocate again. But I also have a note from my wife, who can't be here right now, but she wanted me to read this aloud, that last week she watched 2 neighbors, ages 3 and 4, who had been playing together in their yard across Langford Avenue, and were crossing Langford Avenue before an adult could get to them. And despite being told numerous times by their parents not to cross the street by themselves, they wanted to say hello to another neighbor who lives across the street. But then a car whizzed by shortly after they crossed. And there are now dozens of young children living on Langford Avenue. I think it's more like 18, but we'll say dozens. And we would like to go on record saying that someone is going to get hurt or killed if this issue is not addressed. And once the construction of South First Street is complete, the traffic will only increase, because South First Street is at the bottom of Langford Avenue. And once traffic will only increase, so the time to enact speed calming measures or speed bumps, speed humps, is now. So we implore the city council, and I ask, what will it take? Will it take some sort of crowdsource funding? Will it take a petition? What else do we need to do to advocate for speed bumps or speed humps on our street on Langford Avenue?
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Yeah, I'll just interject really quickly. After seeing you all the other day, I emailed city management, and I'll look forward to some commentary later tonight if you guys would hang around.
Before they get away, could I ask Violet, what was the drawing you were holding up?
Wow, it's a picture of lots of little houses and a street with a red car going by very loudly, and little stick people around saying stuff like "slow down, sir," and winging speed bumps and "hey," and so loud. So I agree with my dad, and I agree with Miss Kenny. We need speed bumps.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right, who's next? Mr. Cox.
Hello, I'm Kevin Cox. I live on Fairway Avenue, and I'm here tonight to talk about Elliott Avenue. Elliott Avenue, it's a street in Charlottesville. It's a street in a neighborhood. It's a street where people walk, ride bikes, where kids play on the sidewalk, where they draw on the sidewalk with chalk, and that's an inspiration to me. But according to the city, Elliott Avenue is not a street. It's an arterial road, a high-speed through road. And that designation is the reason there is no crosswalk at 2nd Street and Elliott Avenue. 2nd Street goes up into Ix. A lot of people use that crossing. Crossings are deliberately limited on arterials to keep traffic moving. That's a street, not a road. We need the brakes in traffic. But like everything the city traffic engineering team does, Elliott Avenue has been poisoned by the deeply held design principle that Charlottesville is a collection of through roads for the city engineer and other county drivers to use as they tear through our town.
I would just encourage you to not use ad hominem attacks, please. Go ahead.
Not do what?
Ad hominem attacks against our staff, please. Continue.
When the city engineer first arrived in Charlottesville,
Sir, please continue with your
I
statement.
am.
Okay.
don't interrupt me. Don't interrupt me.
You may not
When the city engineer first arrived, he wanted to raise the speed limit on Locust from 25 to 35. That's how he thinks, and that's poisoning transportation and sidewalks and pedestrian issues in Charlottesville, that underlying thing. Do you want to debate me?
I'm saying that in these chambers, you may not engage in
Designating
ad hominem
a neighborhood street as an arterial, that wasn't an ad hominem attack, that was a true fact, and it's in the record. Designating a neighborhood street as an arterial speaks volumes about the city's ideas about what the streets in town really are for. And things only change when residents finally get energized and riled up, like happened over at Rose Hill Drive and Rugby Avenue. And the crosswalk at Barracks Road. And I'll tell you, most people are not going to do what the deputy city manager has told you they should do and walk blocks and blocks out of their way to avoid using that legitimate legal crossing into Ix. And people do come from the neighborhood to use that. The flashing beacons, they're great. Nobody's going to change, or very few people are going to change their route because of those flashing beacons. Okay? They're going to come down. They're either, what most of them do, I've stood there for hours and watched. And most people who want to cross at 2nd and are walking on Elliott will either jaywalk, or they'll walk to the 2nd Street crossing, which is a crossing, and cross there without the benefit of a marked crosswalk. That's what they do. They don't detour. Think of it this way. Would you accept a half-a-mile detour when you drive to work, just an unnecessary routine detour that adds that much time? Of course you wouldn't, and neither should pedestrians, and they're not going to. They're just not going to. That's the fact. Now, I want to say one other thing. The reason I'm going to keep doing this in spite of the intransigency is because of people like them, the newcomers to this town who so inspire me with their desire to live in a walkable town, and you should support them as well and put down that crosswalk.
Thank you, Mr. Cox. All right, who's next? Anyone else? All right, there will be an opportunity for further comments at the end of the meeting. At this point, we have the consent agenda. I would like to go ahead and request, please, that the item that was mentioned relative to the, heavens,
Item number 7.
number 7, is that what it is?
Yes.
That number 7 be put on the business, the action items. I had questions about that myself, so. Can you read the rest, please, Madam Clerk?
Do we need a motion and second for that amendment?
I would
'Cause
second the
motion
requested amendment.
or second, whatever is
I don't
needed?
think we have to have that.
A request of any one person is enough to move it to the
Okay.
end.
Thank you.
Consent agenda. Number 4, minutes. April 10th budget work session, April 21st regular meeting, April 24th special meeting. Number 5 is carryover from the CDBG Community Development Block Grant and Home Investment Partnership Programs resolutions from the previous meeting, and there are 3 of those. Number 6, a resolution to appropriate Virginia Department of Criminal Justice Services Victims of Crime Act Grant Award, FY25, $123,600, one of 2 readings. Skipping number 7. Number 8 is a resolution to appropriate $26,210.96 to the Charlottesville-Albemarle Society for the Prevention of Cruelty to Animals, CASPCA, one of 2 readings. 9, a resolution to appropriate $20,000 in Virginia Department of Criminal Justice Services, Children's Justice Act, one-time grant program funds, one of 2 readings. 10, resolution to refund $115,692.68 in business tangible personal property tax. Number 11, resolution to appropriate police warehouse outlet sales revenue to equipment replacement fund, one of 2 readings.
Is there a motion to adopt the consent agenda
As amended.
As amended.
as amended?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Cast your votes. All right, the ayes have it. Mr. Sanders, is there a report from the city manager's office? And I would like to add specifically the continued request we've had relative to the crosswalk in Elliott. Any update on that? And also to Langford, the issues that have been raised there.
So Mr. Freeze will give an update as to the ongoing consideration of what to do on Langford Avenue.
All right, good evening, Vice Mayor Pinkston, members of council. So first off, as you know, staff has been working on what we've called our urgent infrastructure list, which is a list of projects throughout the city to improve safety through a variety of mechanisms. So one of the projects on that list is in Langford Avenue to install a speed cushion or speed table. Now the proposal at this point is to install that as a test feature, see how it works, drive fire trucks over it, make sure that we're comfortable with the tool, but the idea is that once we've done that, we would then move forward with installing a permanent solution. But for the time being, we should, within the next, before the end of this calendar year, have the installation of that speed cushion on Langford.
Is there any chance it could be sooner, or is that just the lead time for that particular piece of equipment?
I just know that we're aiming to have all of this entire list done before the end of this calendar year.
Okay.
And so I don't know when any of things on this list are going to actually appear on the ground. So it could be sooner. It will depend on our ability to get the materials delivered.
Okay, and this is for not just Langford, but for around the city?
Yep, I have a list here that has 34 different locations on it.
Okay, fantastic.
And so
And
you're
we'll be
saying by the end of the year, all 34 will be installed, so we're
That's
just
the-
not
that's the
sure
objective.
when the Langford Avenue project will be implemented?
That's correct.
Hopefully there'll be some prioritization. As I said, I was on that road the other day, and it's definitely,
Yeah.
okay?
Thank you.
I will share that the funding for the urgent infrastructure projects will be a part of the first batch of surplus spending that I'll be bringing to you at the next meeting.
Good.
Do we
That
have
too.
an approximate total for that at the moment?
They're-
We'll find out
yeah.
next time. Okay.
Yeah, they're working on it. I asked for a list of projects that could be done for $500,000, but I understand that the list has grown a bit higher than that, so we'll see what we can pull
No,
off.
this list is for the 500,000.
Okay, so there you go, 500,000.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, in addition to that, we have expressed the priorities of the staff in working through the consideration of Elliott Avenue, and there is no update
Okay.
as to what we've committed to at this time.
All right, thank you.
I also want to just express support and thanks to the PCOB staff, Inez, James, and the board for a great town hall meeting last week. I was able to attend. We had great public engagement as a part of the conversations for ongoing civilian oversight of our police department. And I also wanted to share a staffing update. Last month in my work plan update to council and the public, I shared that we were in the process of bringing on a leader for our city attorney's office as well as our HR department. HR director has started. The city attorney's staff member will be joining us on the 14th. This individual is moving from out of state, from North Carolina. He has to be admitted to the bar in the state of Virginia. So he will be joining our team as the managing director of the office, working with the ongoing acting city attorney, Pam O'Berry, who is with Sands Anderson Law Firm. So as soon as he has completed that transition, then he will become officially named the city attorney through your action of approving his employment contract. He's going to lead the office and continue to fill all efforts to fill vacancies in that office. There are still 5 vacancies in that particular office, so he will get to work on that immediately, as well as working with me on some policy and procedure reviews for things that we need to get done. So we'll have that for the next few months.
So that's fantastic. We've got now city attorney in waiting, a new HR manager.
Yes.
Great.
And I also want to join in acknowledging Public Service Recognition Week. You all don't know how hard it is to serve the public. We do love you, we do care, and we try our best. But we can't meet every expectation, so we just keep trying. I want to thank the city staff for the work that they do. We've had a series of open houses scheduled this week to just share amongst ourselves the great work that we're doing in this community. And I will gather with the team on Wednesday to provide a proper thank you to the team. So that is my report for this meeting.
Great, thank you so much. So we're down to action items. The first item has to do with the Board of Architectural Review appeal denial of demolition certificate of appropriateness for 144 Chancellor Street contributing structure. Mr. Werner was going to present with a 10 minutes max. Then we have the appellant can have a chance to speak, and then the BAR chair as well. So if you'd start, Mr. Werner, we'd appreciate it.
Before he starts, I just need to stick something on the record. One of my other functions in life is that I am the trustee, a trustee, there are 3 of us, of St. Paul's Memorial Episcopal Church, which is right down the street from this address at 144 Chancellor. I am not paid for serving in this role. I have no financial stake in anything that's going on. But my name, it does appear on various documents and deeds and so on. I didn't want to let the moment go by without acknowledging and then disclosing to everybody that I have an involvement with the church, though it is not a financial involvement. I've been advised by the city attorney that I should disclose. I don't even have to disclose technically, but that I should, and I have, but that I can participate in the decision.
Thank you. Mr. Warner?
Good evening. Jeff Warner. I'm the city's preservation and design planner, and I'm here tonight in the capacity as the staff for the Board of Architectural Review, or the BAR. The matter before you is an appeal of a BAR denial of a certificate of appropriateness, a COA, to allow demolition of a structure at 144 Chancellor Street. After my introduction and summary, Kevin Blair is here to offer comments on behalf of the property owner, and following that, David Timmerman is here to provide comments on behalf of the BAR. Mr. Timmerman is the BAR's vice chair, and at the January 22nd BAR meeting, he served as chair. And then after those comments, certainly we can answer any questions that you all have for any of us. So on January 22nd, 2025, the BAR, by a vote of 6-0, denied a COA to allow demolition of an approximately 20-foot by 56-foot single-story wood-framed structure constructed circa 1905 as a schoolhouse. The building was reportedly vacant by 1920, after which it served as a residential rental, and it was acquired in 1979 by the current owner, the sorority, and it's most recently been used for storage. This structure was designated by City Council as a contributing structure within the Corner Architectural Design Control District, and per City Code, the demolition of a contributing structure requires approval of a COA. In considering that request for a demolition COA, the BAR's review criteria are specifically limited to the City Code provisions under Chapter 34, Section 5.2.7. However, on an appeal, City Council may consider any other information, factors, or opinions it deems relevant to the application. In appealing the BAR's action, the appellant states the structure is not architecturally unique or tied to notable individuals, and it has outlived its purpose. In reviewing the COA request, the BAR relied on the 1983 state designation, the 1984 federal designation, and the city's 2003 designation of this property as historic. All established that this vernacular structure is valued for its contribution to the surrounding historic district. In appealing the BAR's action, the appellant also asserts demolition is considered the most practical path forward, citing expert analyses showing the building is unsafe and would be costly to repair. The appellant asserts that despite maintenance efforts, structural issues make rehabilitation unfeasible, and even if feasible, the building has limited value as a usable structure. In reviewing the COA request, the BAR did not refute that the analyses support demolition. Instead, they noted that the analyses presented options to repair the structure. Additionally, the BAR concluded the owner bears responsibility for the deteriorated condition of the structure, given that it is a contributing structure within a design control district. The BAR did not refute that the repairs could be costly. Instead, applying the review criteria and following their primary charge to preserve historic buildings, the BAR concluded that repairing the building is the preferred remedy. So tonight, the matter before you is to approve or deny that COA request, not overturn the BAR or support. It's your vote on the COA. So should you all deny this COA request, per code, the owner can appeal that further to the circuit court. In addition to the further appeal, following a denial by City Council, there is a provision in our code that allows the owner, as a matter of right, to be entitled to demolish the structure if, for a period of 12 months, the property is offered for sale at a fair market price to a party that will preserve and restore it, and if no bona fide contract is executed within that 12-month sale period, then they can move forward.
Mr. Warner,
with
can you say
demolition.
that last piece again? I'm sorry.
It's a little bit complicated. It is a provision of our code that allows the remedy of an appeal to council. Say you all deny, they have an option of appealing that decision to the circuit court.
Okay.
There is also you can do both. The opportunity that, and it's happened, I think the last time it occurred was 2014, a property was offered for sale, and the period of time is based on the assessment. And if after 12 months, for this property's value, if someone has not offered to acquire it, then they can return and council can allow them to demolish the structure by right. Little complicated here, hoping we don't go down that route because of the way this parcel is situated, but to be clear, that option is there. So finally, the staff's recommendation to you all, and I'm here representing the BAR, is that you all render a final decision and by resolution deny the COA to allow demolition of this structure. If, however, council agrees with the appellant, then you should approve by resolution a COA to allow demolition of the structure. So, and before proceeding to my comments, or the comments from Mr. Blair and Mr. Timmerman, do you all have any immediate questions for me?
Just a couple quick questions. One, so an application had come before both the BAR and City Council on appeal in 2013. And both times, demolition permit was denied. So it's been a little over a decade since That has occurred with them making the same request, and that period, it was, the advice was given that restoration was the preferred remedy. So in part, deterioration would come down to not having done any restoration work in that decade period, or?
It's difficult, and I would say that the rehabilitation work, use that term in the sense that not restoring it to an original use, but rehabilitating, and that's what our guidelines are anchored in. I think I'm trying to reflect what the BAR said, and the BAR's decision was yes, in that 10-year period, the structure had not been further maintained in a way that mitigates the concerns they have now.
It got a new roof though, right?
Yes.
But it's come before, in 2013 and coming back again. And did you state this has been a contributing structure since 1983?
This is one of my historic designation 101. So in the city, we have properties that are designated on the state register, and then if on the state register, they can be nominated and listed on the national register. Those are honorary. The thing that matters in the city of Charlottesville is the local designation. So part of the BAR's criteria is to look at that, is this listed on the state and national register? And in this case, yes. But the thing that brings the BAR's purview is that local designation. And then I think an example I've offered before, my house downtown is not on the state or national register, but it is a designated individually protected property by the city. So therefore, I have to go to the BAR because of that local designation. So yes, this is on all three designations, which matters to the BAR, but the BAR's purview is derived from the local.
Right. So not their purview, but it was on state and national register since 1983.
Correct.
So the owner would have been aware of state and national listings for about 4 decades.
I would hope so, yeah.
And the final question, I don't know if it's a question for you or for the BAR, if it's more appropriate, but and I know they're following their guidelines, and that's the key, they were following their guidelines and recommending denial as happened in 2013. But part of the reason it is a historically significant property is that it's the only remaining one-room schoolhouse left in the city. There are no other standing structures that would be of that kind of historical lineage.
Not that I'm aware of. I mean,
I thought it was one-story schoolhouse, not one-room schoolhouse.
It is a one-room schoolhouse. You can refer, it's got the one room, and so it has several rooms in it, but colloquially a one-room schoolhouse, single-story. It is unique as far as I'm aware of. And yeah, the BAR's perspective is a historic district is the sum of its parts, and this being a part.
Thank you. I have no additional questions.
Yeah, so next up, I guess we have...
I've got some questions.
Oh, please, go ahead, sorry.
Yeah.
Misread you.
Sorry, I thought you were gonna have questions too.
Nope.
So I watched the BAR meeting, and I was looking back at the 2013 list of deficits to the building then, and it seems like some of the same, it's not like since the 2013 request, it's fallen into disrepair. It was already kind of in disrepair in 2013. So just to clarify the historic registry business, the building itself is listed, or it's just a historical building within the district that makes the district more historical? Because I searched the National Register and I searched the Virginia Register, and I couldn't find where that building was listed specifically.
It's
but
listed,
that doesn't mean it's not.
It's identified as a contributing resource, and within some of the districts on the National Register, you have structures and properties that are eligible in and of themselves. There are others which, lacking the context of a district, may not be eligible as an individual property. Now, under the eyes of being on the National Register or being eligible for the National Register, whether you're individually listed or even eligible for, carries the same weight. For example, the Salmons Family Cemetery that blocked the bypass. was deemed eligible for the National Register. It was never nominated, it never went through the process. But the fact that it was deemed eligible caused VDOT to hit the brakes on that project. So, so I can't, it's difficult to say, oh, is this more historic or less historic? I have to go with this has been determined to be a contributing resource, and in that regard, it's a part of the whole.
Got it. Okay, cool, thanks. I wasn't sure how that distinction worked.
And that's kind of the thing, is it's not really a distinction, but yet we all know there is. So, but it really, it's like I said, that's a value point that the BAR weighs, and then it's that local designation that really sort of matters.
And then one of the things, one of the members of the BAR said that we have a duty to maintain buildings, especially historic ones. Is there an official duty, or is it just kind of like we like historical things, we should preserve them? Or is there like actual rules that one needs to follow?
There's a rule, and I will tell you, I struggle with this one. My house is a beat-up old house. I wish I were finished. It's not. My wife wishes it was finished. So it's difficult to go around and look at every historic property and say, you know, I'm going to cite them for this. And I don't have the time. We don't have the resources. So we try to, you know, stay on top of it with letting people know, or if there's a complaint, we'll respond to it. But I'm not out policing the city, looking for things. And I would say from the street, if I were by and looked at that, I'd say, yeah, that's an old building covered in, looks like, you know, vinyl siding. Maybe they need to clean their gutters, but I would not have gone and banged on the door and said, this thing's falling over. So it is, in the ordinance allows us to, it allows zoning to cite a violation where it's determined that something is detrimental to the historic district or to the property itself.
Okay. And then when you said that you're hoping we don't go down that route because of where it's situated, the 12-month sale thing, what do you mean by that?
You mean on that provision of the code?
Yeah, when you were describing that they could put it on the market for 12 months, but you hope we don't go down that path because of where it's situated? What do you
because
mean?
it's all one parcel now, and a strict reading of the code says that the resource and the land under it, and I know back in 2013, that's actually what the sorority had attempted to do, was to create a parcel in which it could be put on the market separately. I don't know, I wasn't here or wasn't with the city at that time, but there was some issue with that subdivision. But as it currently, so think in terms of right now, they are appealing the BAR's decision, and so it's sort of that property as it is now. If we were to take the code and say, well, we're going to do this, well, that would be the property as it could be. I don't think we would want to compel the sorority to sell their entire parcel. Does that make sense? So that's where I'm hoping that provision's available. I'm not an attorney. I urge Kevin that they can certainly explore it. But because it's one parcel with two structures on it, it gets a little complicated.
And is there, I know we're just the demolition is what the factor is, but as part of that application process, does what it becomes after matter, or is that not the purview?
Another very good question. The BAR struggles with that because by policy, we're evaluating the loss of that building. When we know something's coming in its place, it's you know, you try to, you know, not make that decision, but it's impossible to divide those. In this case, we don't have anything. It's the express concerns that Mr. Blair will get into, and so the BR really didn't even have we're going to get something else. We've had projects where it's relatively simple to evaluate a demolition, knowing what the historic nature is of a building and what might go there. But in this, no, we haven't been offered an idea of what may be going there. And I think that's not, and Kevin can articulate this, it's really what they want of that structure, and I'll let him address that.
But that's not like it shouldn't be a determining factor.
For the BAR, it shouldn't, and that's why, if you don't mind, I really stress in my staff report that you all, and that's, you all as council can consider other factors and issues that the BAR can't.
Okay, so one of the questions we could be permitted to ask is, what's going to happen next? Got it. Okay, but the BAR doesn't ask that, but we could.
Yeah, our
Okay.
box is very small for demolitions,
Yeah.
and you all can go outside that box.
Okay, thank you.
Anything else?
Not at the moment.
Okay.
Not now.
All right, I think the BAR chair up next.
Actually, Mr. Blair?
I'm sorry, the appellant has up to 10 minutes to speak. I apologize. Please introduce yourself, sir.
Yes, my name is Kevin Blair. I'm here to represent before you the client, my client, Delta Zeta National Housing Corporation, the owners of the subject property located at 144 Chancellor Street, also known as Delta Zeta Annex. I am here this evening for two specific reasons. Number one, to appeal and refute some of the sentiments and positions of certain Board of Architectural Review members expressed during the recent January bar meeting. Number two, to seek direct redress of this body for our desire to have the unsafe, uninhabitable, and obsolete aforementioned structure properly removed as to mitigate further damage to our student population and the public whose travel is in constant direct proximity to this building. As to our appeal of the bar, we take issue with comments in the January 22nd meeting regarding the inferences and claims that we have intentionally neglected the building for the purpose of having it demolished. This is patently untrue. As evidence shows, we have made efforts to maintain the exterior weather-tight envelope of the building. We installed a new asphalt shingle roof after trees fell and damaged the roof. These trees were planted long ago, too close and impinging on the foundation wall of the building long before we purchased the property. The aluminum siding that exists was installed prior to our purchase of the property in 1979. We have chosen not to invest assets internally in the building as it was a smaller structure on the property when purchased that has never had a specific use or purpose for us. With regards to our redress before you this evening, we realize to a degree that what we had tasked the bar with in seeking demolition of this structure falls outside of their stated charge and duty to preserve at all costs historical structures. The cost to relocate or renovate this building is no longer feasible and far exceeds its remaining intrinsic value. We are asking you not to overrule on their due diligence, but to instead separately make a choice for us to grant the demolition and removal of this building. It has reached the end of its expected lifespan due to inferior construction. For example, engineering methods, standards, and materials of 120 years ago. In the interest of public safety, we hope you will advocate for our needs. We have no deceptive or ulterior motive of removing that building other than to produce safety for the neighborhood and our students that are parking mere feet from that building, walking within feet of it. We realize that there's no, to move that structure, the streets are not wide enough, the utilities are not compatible. There's a railway that's well below grade behind that property. There's no intermediate staging area to take the building apart and to load it and all that. It's just a tight area there. And as been mentioned, the building does not possess any special architectural features that haven't been produced in other buildings and couldn't be reproduced. It's a very basic multi-room school that was used for 3 or 4 years after it was built in 1905. And it's been a rental property, it's been a storage place, it's been a flop house. It's had no real enduring life, unfortunately, during the period of 120 years. So that's all we're desiring of you guys, to consider the safety aspects of that building moving forward.
Thank you, sir. Any questions for the appellant?
What is it going to be?
It's going to be a grassy area, maybe some sitting area, a trellis, a few benches for our girls that live next door in the 16-room house that was used to be a hotel, and just there's no structure that we have no plans to put any structure there.
Okay,
It's never been discussed.
thank you.
Thank you, sir. Next, I'll have the BAR chairperson, come forward, please. Thank you.
Thank you. Hello, council members. My name is David Timmerman. I'm a member of the Board of Architectural Review, vice chair, but I was the chair the night of this hearing. So we're here to discuss what's known as the Little Red Schoolhouse. We've heard already some of the BAR criteria that we use to make these decisions. And of course, we serve at your honor as your advisors. We've already heard some of these points, but as a major BAR criteria, we're looking at historic, architectural, or cultural significance. Does this building have any of those? We've talked about it being built in 1905. We've talked about it being a contributing structure in the Rugby Road and University Corner Historic District. The house does represent an unusual building type in the corner district. The simple design of the schoolhouse has been retained, hasn't been modified very much through the years. So that in and of itself, I think, has value according to our evaluation. And the schoolhouse is linked historically and aesthetically to the other structures on the street. For making this motion, the points that we dug into more specifically was the idea of this house remaining intact. When you go into the house, a good deal of the wood floor, the plaster walls, the window trim, all are there the way they've always been, in a way. That's a special thing that you recognize because you don't see that very often, especially in this particular district. So in some ways, it was a little bit of a time capsule, you might call it. The fact that this building is unusual. It is, in fact, as far as we know, the last remaining one-room schoolhouse in the city. So I think that carries some weight as well for everybody to consider. The exterior, along with the interior, remains intact underneath the aluminum siding that was put on sometime before the owners received the building. According to our assessment, the aluminum siding was put on over what looked like the original siding. In fact, when you stand on the street, you can look at the house, and when you really think about it without its aluminum siding on, you can picture it as it was probably 100 years ago. And then another point that came up in our discussion was perhaps maybe more significant than or just as significant as the house itself, is its contribution to the rest of the neighborhood, in particular that street. Chancellor Street is fairly well intact. A number of the buildings are historic, a good number. And I don't think you can discount the fact that having such a well-intact historic street so close to UVA in a region, in a district where the historic fabric is quickly eroding in a lot of places, Wortland Street comes to mind. That's a very important factor as well in our looking at this project. So we unanimously did not support this. We did look at it as demo by neglect, maybe not actively, but perhaps passively. And I just want to call your attention to our EDC district guidelines for considering demolition. This is straight from our guidelines. Historic buildings are irreplaceable community assets, and once they are gone forever. With each successive demolition or removal, the integrity of a historic district is further eroded. Because of all the above, we did not support allowing for demolition. We would hope that the owners could find a creative solution for keeping the historic schoolhouse and maintaining the fabric of the historic street. And just on the note about the structural damage, while we acknowledge that the house needs structural repair, it's not beyond repair.
Okay. Thank you so much, and we appreciate your service on the BAR and all the time you've taken on this.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you. Wait, before you leave, sir, any questions? Council?
I'm curious about the weight that you all gave, as I'm trying to figure out how much weight I should give, to the fact that it hasn't been a schoolhouse in over 100 years. It was a schoolhouse for 10 years, roughly 8% of its lifetime. How significant is that?
I don't think it's significant, considering the structure has not been altered even through its numerous phases of apartment and any other use that it's been through. Usually when it goes through these different phases, the building that we inherit is unrecognizable. I think the difference here is that in observing the interior and the exterior, that it hasn't changed that much.
I mean, I'm not going to say I'm intimately familiar with Chancellor Street, but I walk down it a couple times a month, and that building has always struck me as being anomalous. It doesn't fit with the rest of frankly, the sorority size buildings that for the most part are on that street. It's a different style from most of them. And I'm trying to figure out what value we are perpetuating as we try to fit that in with this broader view of historic nature.
That's a really good question. I would just respond by saying that there are other residential houses of that scale on the street. And again, the special thing about that street is when you walk down it, there hasn't been a situation like this that's happened there yet. There aren't gaps in the continuity of the street. And while it's not the most famous street in Charlottesville, I think it's unique in that way, especially considering it's so close to the university.
I would ask what other, everything else on that street is at least 2 stories. So what does it match? What buildings are you saying that it looks like?
I'm talking more about the residential scale of the project. So it may not be 2 stories, but it's the fact that it's a residential house, or it was, of that scale. I would consider that comparable to a number of the other structures. And then I think that maybe the reason why it feels like an anomaly is maybe more due to the fact that the exterior siding has been covered up with a fairly mundane 1980s product.
Yeah.
But
nothing that screams historical accuracy.
It doesn't, but as soon as you take that off, I would think it would. It could.
So Okay. Anything else right now? Oh, no, I'm sorry. Please, hold up. Thank you, sir.
You're
Appreciate
welcome.
it. So, I guess, Lloyd, help me out here. So we've got 4 people today. We're down a team member who's in Ghana. I think it's probably okay to sort of maybe give a, not a straw poll, but whatever you want to call it. Like, where do people stand on this sort of, what's your gut reaction? My own reaction is to let it be demolished. I went out there today. It's got some sort of plastic siding or something. It's basically been in like a, allegedly, yeah, it looked like plastic to me, but it's basically been in a sort of hermetically sealed container for I don't know how long. I doubt that it will ever be ripped off and made into anything better. If it's, you know, if nothing happens and it doesn't deteriorate because it's in this hermetically sealed plastic bubble, 20 years from now, the same thing will be happening, and people say, well, demolition by neglect, and it won't have been neglected because it'll be in a plastic container that whole time. So I'm not an architect. I work with architects. I love them. But from a practical perspective, I'm not sure what it matters to keep this, unless someone is really willing to make the investment, and it doesn't seem like someone is. I don't really see the point of having this ugly brownish box on that road. So that's where I stand. I don't know how others feel.
I also would support overturning the BAR's decision and allowing demolition, but kind of for different reasons, which is I think it's important to, well, I'm going to take some of that language of the character of the street and the neighborhood. The other houses on that street are used and are a different size. So I don't think it currently goes with the feel of that street or the needs of the people who have it. I think historical preservation is important. I also think the highest and best use is important. And in this area where, you know, maybe it'll be a parklet for a little bit, maybe it'll become additional housing in a couple of years. I think those are probably both better uses than a building that has served its purpose and is no longer being used for anything else.
Okay. Mr. Payne?
Well, I would say, you know, whenever these come up, there's a high-level conversation, I think, around should the city be engaged in historic preservation in any meaningful or significant sense. And I think there is a real valid perspective that it shouldn't. I don't agree with that. I do think that cities have real interest in historic preservation. And you think about cities across Virginia and across the country, it plays a critical role in creating a place of unique identity and sense of place. And that's just always going to be a tool. And I think it doesn't need to be either or, that the city does that and that means you stop new development. I think it can absolutely be part of a new urbanism and growth. For this specifically, I don't, you know, obviously this is not, you know, the most important project in the world in terms of, you know, historic preservation. I do think that given, you know, it's the last remaining structure of a one-room schoolhouse in the city, I think given the history of the building, the fact that it's intact, given the uniqueness of that specific area, I do support upholding the decision the BAR made. Because again, while this is not going to be the most important historic preservation decision for the city, I think, you know, if we want to have historic preservation be an activity of the city, part of it is maintaining structures with a unique history and providing an opportunity for adaptive reuse or preserving that history long term, particularly in a case like this where it's demolition by a sorority for pure convenience because it's more convenient to not keep it up and just have it be nothing but empty space for, you know, UVA students. So, you know, I do hear the other perspective, but that's where I'm at.
Mr. Snook?
I've been trying to wrestle with the question of what significance to give to the fact, as my earlier question had asked, that, okay, so it's a one-room schoolhouse for 10 years. Approximately 8% of the life that it's had in this world. Nobody can see that.
No, it's in a bubble.
It's all inside.
Yep.
And so when
And I don't think there's any requirement to do anything about that.
No, there isn't.
Yeah.
But when I'm trying to think about values that we're upholding in encouraging historic preservation, I sort of feel like they ought to be, if we're trying to build up the notion that the district is a historic preservation district, it ought to be something that people can see. And if they can't see it, it doesn't have as much weight for me. And I remember one time we talked about, maybe not when I was, maybe I'm thinking back to when I was on the Planning Commission, but we talked about the notion of having something be saved because it was an outbuilding and it showed its relationship to the building that it was next to and that sort of thing. And I don't see that as being a situation here either. I just don't see, although I can understand why the BAR has said what they've said within the context of their limited purview, I think I'm in favor of approving the demolition.
Councilor Payne seemed like you had a thought.
No, I mean, I'm sure I'm outvoted, but, I would just say, I think we need to have bigger conversations about, how much we want to do historic preservation in the city. And I think, I'm also thinking about the precedent, as well as with demolition, you obviously remove any opportunity going forward in the future to remove that siding or showcase that history. Obviously that just completely forecloses that opportunity.
Can I ask you a question? So say they're not under, the fraternity sorority is not under any obligation to do anything but preserve it in amber inside this ugly plastic shell and shingle shell. Are you thinking even given that it makes sense to say kick the can down the road or defer a decision on demolition because maybe things will be different in 10 years?
I mean, that would be my perspective. And again, particularly in this case where it's being done as a decision of pure convenience by our sorority, which, I'm not, it sounds negative.
They're saying it's safety, but you think it's pure convenience.
That's their argument.
Okay. Is it possible, Mr. Warner, to require some level of documentation? I know we've done that in other cases where, a thoroughgoing, maybe that's already happened. I saw the Dunbar report, but that's different than like a detailed survey.
And I believe we have something in the draft resolution about, similar to what we did with the project on Stadium Road.
That's what I was thinking.
Yeah, and building will be documented thoroughly, et cetera, and it's the same language from that.
Is that like a professional company that comes in and does like a laser scanning or something, or?
We could do that. I mean, it could be done, whether that's necessary or not. Oftentimes it's just good photographs, good measured drawing. It can be done architectural. Someone can come in and do it. I don't think we're thinking, something that's like a Habs hair level of documentation, but we have examples that could be done.
Where is the resolution, on what page?
I don't have the same page numbers as you all, but it's attachment 5. And if you don't mind, I just offer a little context, because I think you all are asking very, very, very good questions. And I just want you to know that probably in a couple months, I'm going to be in here with, right from the Virginia Avenue. We have, going to the BAR on the 20th, a demolition request for 1310 Wharton Street, which is the Wurtenbacher house.
Yeah, I don't support that.
Yeah, and that's coming to the BAR essentially with the idea of knowing the BAR will not support it. So there is.
I mean, at this point, I'm
Yeah.
prejudging that. I shouldn't say that.
Oh, I know. So I'm saying it is that weighing of things, and unfortunately, I suspect we'll be having this discussion again soon. But yeah, it's attachment 5.
What page?
83.
Not in mine.
If you're on the digital one, within the PDF, it's page 110 and 111. Within the PDF.
Can I ask a question while we look that might be more for Mr. Freeze? But I know this is an architectural design district, so if at some point they want to build something there, what can they do by right?
I don't know the zoning on this particular site, if that's what you're asking. Yeah, I don't know what the zoning is.
Okay.
But if it required demolition of an individually protected property or a contributing structure, they would go to the BAR. If they get a demolition permit, they would demolish it, build whatever's under the zoning. If they don't get approval, then they would have to figure out some sort of preserving of those structures, working around it. That would just be the process.
Yeah, Jeff, do you want to speak to that?
Well, I mean, I would assume they have the remedies available to them in the ordinance, so presumably you could appeal up to the courts. Let's say demolition was allowed, whatever got built there in its place, because it's still within a district, the new construction would be subject to BAR review. Yeah.
And I know this will be very site-specific in terms of if it could work or what it would look like, but you have examples like the apartment building on West Main where you had historic structures where they built a larger apartment complex around it. The city could have demolished those at the time and made it easier. They chose not to. They did still build additional housing, but they did have to build around it and preserve this.
Yeah, that's not my
structures.
favorite example. Across the street and the hotel, I don't know, what's it called?
Doyle or something?
The Doyle, yeah, where those two houses were retained, and really, I think it's been very successful as being part of that project. So that's to me a good example.
And in my mind, it's going to vary site by site, but in my mind, that's historic preservation working, where you can have additional density and growth, but you're valuing some preservation to create a unique sense of history in place. But
yeah, for me, I would, if I felt like there was an option that this facility, that this building might actually be restored at some point, I would support this. But I think that the owner is within their rights to just leave it buttoned up in siding forever, and so I don't.
Yeah, and I know I'm outvoted, so I'll just end by saying, if we agree that the city should be involved in historic preservation, if we allow people to, again, the BAR's argument, and I know they disagree, but the BAR's argument is part of it is demolition by neglect. If you let neglect be an option for these owners, they will pursue that more going forward into the future.
But what, again, in this case, what is neglect? I mean, they've
not taking the siding off and not doing any significant the work to try to showcase or preserve the structure long term.
But I would have thought that, to me, neglect would have been not putting sidings on, not putting, just letting it rot in place. But I see your point. So is someone ready to move the question?
Yeah, I'll go ahead and move the resolution of approval of the certificate of appropriateness for demolition of the structure at 144 Chancellor Street as printed on page 111 of our copy, attachment 5.
Okay, I found it. Is there a second?
Second.
Okay, please cast your votes. Are we good, Madam Clerk? Okay, thank you, sir. Thank you all for your time. Thank you, BAR, for your efforts.
All right, thank you.
Right, so item 13 on the list, a public hearing regarding exercise of eminent domain for the acquisition of right-of-way and easements and service to the East High streetscape project in the Barracks Emmett Streetscape project. Mr. Goddard will introduce the item for public hearing.
Good evening, Council. Mike Goddard, Deputy Director of Public Works. As you mentioned, I'm here to introduce the hearing discussing the exercise of eminent domain for a couple of our projects. As you mentioned, these are two projects that are part of our VDOT project portfolio. The East High Streetscape project includes ADA and pedestrian improvements, wider sidewalks, bike lanes, landscaping, along with upgrades to intersections and better accessibility. The project will also improve stormwater management, traffic signals and signage, as well as, and this is rather important, the undergrounding of overhead utilities. This project is essentially the completion or conclusion of the Belmont Bridge project, so it's an extension of that, and it finishes up some of the ADA improvements that we meant to originally make with that project, but we couldn't get done on the first swipe. The Barracks Emmett Streetscape project will implement bike, pedestrian, and vehicular improvements at the intersection of Barracks and Emmett Street. The Barracks Emmett project will also install a 6-foot path extending up Barracks Road from the intersection to right past the Buckingham Road intersection. This project is essentially a safety improvement project down at Barracks and Emmett, making it a little easier to cross the street there, and to provide a little bit wider sidewalk up the hill. The city's right-of-way acquisition consultant has been successful in acquiring right-of-way and easements from 19 of the 26 property owners impacted by these projects. The city's consultant has been unable to reach agreement with several landowners and recommends eminent domain to allow utility relocation to take place in advance of the road improvement projects. So these projects are meant to begin construction Barracks Emmett August of 2026 and East High in early 2026. And if we don't have the right of way to do those, keep those projects moving, we won't be able to keep them on schedule. So that city staff will recommend that City Council authorize the exercise of eminent domain, including the filing of a certificate of deposit for the acquisition of right-of-way and easements for the projects.
I note on page 140 of our packet that parcel 11, identified as Matthew J. Gerber, has been struck through.
Yes.
Does that mean that an agreement has been reached there?
Yes, yes, sir.
Okay. So where it shows up again on page 145, the list of the 5 parcels, we're only talking about 4 parcels at this point.
That's correct.
Okay.
This is, I should note that the process is ongoing. We don't stop the negotiation process just because of this right-of-way or because of your certificate of take. We just, we're still doing our best to, come to good faith agreements.
I know we've gone over it as council, but just for the benefit of the public, could you do like a loose 3-sentence, this is how the process of eminent domain works, so that the public understands this is not the first time that these landowners have seen this?
Yeah, and I'll introduce the man who does all this work for you. That's Lee Cooper. He's our right-of-way expert, project manager for our division, for the CD division. Come on up, Lee.
Thanks.
And he can explain how that works to you.
Yeah, City Council, yes, we, the first step is always making a bona fide offer to each landowner. And that's creating appraisals, evaluations, presenting that to the landowners. We do that in good faith. We go over negotiations. We describe the project itself. These particular projects, we've been doing this since 2023. A typical project, we would do that within a 45-day time span as far as negotiating. So these projects have been kind of drawn out, if you will, trying to reach voluntary agreements, but as Mr. Garda mentioned, we're under a scheduled time frame now with VDOT as far as advertising and starting construction. So, but yes, each landowner is to describe the components of voluntary agreement versus in a domain aspect of it. Yeah.
Thank you. Any other clarifying questions? Okay, I will now open the public hearing. Is there anyone who would like to speak on this item? Okay, with no,
We had one.
oh, okay.
I just want to say, please do. East High sucks. Barracks sucks. Anything you can do to improve it would be great.
Great, thank you so much. With no further speakers, the public hearing is now closed. Okay, so now a resolution to approve exercise of eminent domain for the acquisition of the projects just mentioned. This resolution corresponds with the previous public hearing. Is there any additional discussion people have? Do we need to do this as amended with this new piece crossed out, or is that captured, Lloyd? I haven't looked that closely.
So Resolution 13 lists all of them, but then Resolution 14, or the public hearing lists them all, but then the resolution has it struck out.
Okay, all right.
I would just note as a comment very briefly, I think fully support this. I think it's unfortunate the scale of projects in this area were significantly reduced because of the fear of acquisition of land for wealthy homeowners in the area. And I think with the acquisition of the Federal Executive Institute, if that does fully move forward, I think the transformation of this entire corridor will become even more important. And it really will move beyond drive-throughs and cars to much more mixed use with housing, and you're going to have staff and family and children there very frequently.
Yeah.
So we just note that. But again, fully support, the item tonight.
Okay, so to be clear, item 14, the resolution has that
Yes.
Yes.
one of those
Crossed
items
out.
struck out. Thank you. So is there a motion to adopt this resolution?
So moved.
Okay, is there a second?
Second.
Any further discussion? Please cast your vote. Okay. Thank you. So item 15, public hearing resolution. This is a public hearing resolution authorizing a right-of-way agreement with Dominion Energy for 1505 Avon Street Extended. Thank you, folks. Trey Biasioli will introduce the item for public hearing.
Good evening, council members. Thank you for your time this evening. Trey Biasioli, Office of Sustainability Climate Program Specialist. I have another public hearing that we're introducing here to discuss a right-of-way easement. This is for Dominion Energy. This would be located at 1505 Avon Street Extended, where the school bus depot is currently located. In the summer of 2024, Charlottesville was awarded funding for 2 electric school buses through the EPA's Clean School Bus rebate program. In support of that, Dominion provides the installation of electrical infrastructure and charging infrastructure to support the adoption of electric school buses by districts throughout the state of Virginia. They do so at no cost to the districts to support further electrification of transportation. This easement will run from the northwestern corner of the security fence perimeter down approximately 100 feet, provide for the installation of a transformer, underground conduit and wiring, and the installation of 2 DC fast chargers to support these 2 electric school buses. And it will run 15 feet in width and approximately 20 feet when the DC fast chargers are installed.
Great, thank you. This sounds like a great project. Any clarifying questions?
I'm just curious why Dominion gets it would seem to me that would be an internal sort of thing that the city would do on its own.
We could do so. As I mentioned, Dominion does this at no charge to school districts.
That's why, okay.
They do require some remit from the city in that we will go ahead and plug in the buses during the summer to go ahead and allow them to feed back into the grid to essentially balance out load during times of peak demand. But otherwise, there's no cost to the city as opposed to installing at our own expense.
Great, thank you so much. I will now open the public hearing. Is there anyone who'd like to speak on this item? Okay, with no speakers, the public hearing is now closed. Council, is there any discussion? Would someone move the question then?
I'll move the resolution granting an easement to Dominion Power to enable electrical power service to electric charging infrastructure as found on page 157 of the packet.
Second.
All right, all in favor, cast your votes. Thank you very much. Thank you, sir. My goodness, we've got a lot of public hearings tonight. Item 16, public hearing and resolution to approve a special use permit for a commercial lodging special use permit at 401 Ridge Street. Benjamin Kobe will introduce the item for public hearing. Hi, welcome.
Hey, councilors, how you doing this evening?
Fine, thank
We are here for a public hearing and resolution for a special use permit for the use of a commercial lodging of up to 10 guest rooms at 401 Ridge Street. This application went through the Planning Commission on April 8th of 2025, and it was, there's limited discussion on it. There was unanimously approved, but to go into a little bit more detail, this parcel is located within within an RC zoning district, right on the edge of downtown. RC being one of our residential zoning districts, but our most dense for the traditional residential zoning district. It is also located within the Ridge Street Architectural Control District, and it did go to BAR for this approval, but since there are no proposed changes to the exterior of the structure, all work being limited to the interior of it, the BAR had a unanimous finding of no adverse impact, so it was approved there as well. There was a public meeting held on site with the applicant who's here tonight and myself, where two neighbors did come to the meeting who were generally curious about it but didn't offer really any criticism or had any pushback on this specific project, but did just have sort of general concerns about the traffic on Ridge Street. So we spoke on that a little bit, but since this application it's not all parking is proposed to remain on site. So while there might be a slight, it's going to be a 5 guest room bed and breakfast with entirely on site parking, we determined that there wouldn't be much of an impact to the traffic situation out there. Additionally, we also considered the fact that this parcel is, located around the edge of downtown, so, the comprehensive plan in this area does sort of look to promote walkability and provide, housing and as part of the historical context of the overlay district. With this parcel, going into if this were to be approved, going into a more commercial endeavor, that would obviously incentivize the applicant to, maintain the structure. So from a historical context, as considered through the comprehensive plan, through the Cherry Street local area plan, through all those sort of factors, we determined that approval is warranted for this.
Great, thank you very much. Any questions?
How, I could look this up on the GIS, I guess, but is it a single family home now, or is it apartments, or what is
Law office.
It was utilized as a law office. It's like an old single-family structure, 2
Okay,
stories.
yeah, because I know there's some multifamily homes right on that block, so I wasn't sure if this was one of those.
It's not operating as multifamily.
Okay.
So the structure, just because the structure is remaining, correct?
Sorry?
The structure is remaining, they are renovating it, I guess?
The exterior is totally remaining unchanged. Any work
Okay.
would be limited to the interior to get, the proper COs and building permits are all interior. And the applicant's aware that if any of the work, extends to the outside, then they would have to go back to BAR to get that approval.
Question I have is, why are we calling this future land use medium intensity residential as opposed to, and that's the plan we've adopted, right? A year ago? It's not RC, we're not using RC anymore, correct?
No, RC is the current zoning designation. The future land use map designates it as medium intensity residential as part of the future land use map, but the zoning map designates it as RC.
Sorry.
No problem.
Before that, it was back in the day, R2. Thank you. All right, thank you.
And in the slideshow, there's some floor plans. Is that what's existing currently, or what they propose?
That's what's proposed. Current as well.
Okay.
Which we can take a look at. I forgot I have my clicker down here. Here you go. The downstairs kitchen showing 2 bedrooms down there, a dining room, living room, and then upstairs, 3 bedrooms, bathroom.
So this special use permit is built into the zoning that we passed, is that right?
Correct,
This-
yeah. Under the development code that we have, obviously, council, a commercial dwelling of up to 10 guest rooms, and this one is exercising 5 guest rooms, is allowable with the special use permit. So through our evaluation, obviously, you guys would have the ability to propose special restrictions or some extra conditions onto this approval if you find it appropriate. However, staff's opinion and the opinion of the planning commission were to approve it as requested with no special conditions. But you'd have that opportunity if you'd like.
Okay, great. Any other clarifying questions for now? All right, I will now open the public hearing. Is there anyone who would like to speak on this item? Yes, sir.
I just wanted to mention that it's been...
Could you please give us your name, sir?
Oh, sorry. My name's Andrew Jenkins.
Okay.
And the address is 401 Ridge Street. I just wanted to say that it's been a business for the last 50-plus years.
Okay.
It's been various businesses ever since it was built. It was originally built as a parsonage.
Okay.
And I think that's where it originally got its kind of business use. And then it turned into lots of other things. It's right next door to Noland, or I guess it's the new Noland, whatever it's called.
Wind Supply.
Wind Supply. And then it's also right across the street from the Food Master, which is a convenience store. In considering noise considerations and things like that, the Food Master is much more of a burden in terms of that throughout every Thursday, Friday, and Saturday night. This place has also been operating as a short-term rental under the purview of what was told that we were allowed to do it, but it was kind of told to us inappropriately, so to speak. So any burden that's been expressed, there's been no complaints. We've been talking to the neighbors, the other ones right next to us. The only people who actually kind of live there, which is it's a halfway house. We're recovering alcoholics. And they've all said that it's been great next door. No other complaints by the neighbors. We have people that, with cleaners that come by, and they live across the street from us. And then we've got more cleaners that live down the street in the same neighborhood. And they all say that it's great as well.
Okay.
And we've also done quite a few bit of historical renovations and preservation of the property. We put a new copper roof on it not too long ago.
Okay.
There's a retaining wall, a stone wall, that we've been preserving to keep it from falling down and to keep the building from falling down. Repointing. Yeah, so a substantial amount of historic preservation.
Got it. Thank you. Appreciate that. Any other person like to speak? Okay, with no additional speakers, the public hearing is now closed. Councilors, is there any discussion?
I would just say, this is not the most egregious example because it already had a commercial use. But I will say my one concern is that obviously this is in one of our historically black neighborhoods. And from what I've heard, one of the biggest concerns about gentrification in those neighborhoods continues to be the proliferation of short-term rentals, not just short-term rentals, particularly Airbnb, but also uses like this because of the proximity to UVA. And this isn't the most egregious case because the use was already commercial, but I do worry, as I understood the goal of RC and our planning in that area was to incentivize housing, not short-term rentals. And I would worry there's a lot of similar structures in terms of their size, history, construction, and that we don't create a precedent to incentivize more people to convert those to short-term rentals, which I imagine in many cases would be a more easy and quick profit than their current use as multifamily housing. So that's just my only concern.
Okay, any other questions?
Yeah, I have a question. If it's being so I know one of the things that we're getting presented on later this year, and I think we voted in the budget to get software to help us better manage our short-term rental
Yes.
inventory. And then we'll be presented with like an update to the short-term
Mr.
rules.
Divers will make sure that in partnership with NDS is what we discussed, getting that system for.
So My question is if the folks who are gonna operate this, will it be like a standalone bed and breakfast with its own like website and booking infrastructure, or will it just be on Airbnb and they don't have to have the 180-day rule and that sort of thing? Is this kind of like a work around the 180-day limit?
Do we know?
Does that question make sense?
I think so.
I mean, the proposed use of the structure is for a bed and breakfast, not for a short-term rental. So if it were to operate as a short-term rental, as, you know, NDS, and I know our zoning folks have been working on getting those management systems in place, this is it would sort of be outside of that. So if they had to.
So it's more like South Street Inn, not like my neighbors down the block.
I'm not familiar with South Street Inn, frankly, so I can't really speak to that.
Sounds right.
Yeah.
It's going to be a bed and breakfast.
So Mr. Davers can speak to the business operations.
Okay, thank you. Thanks, Ben.
With the caveat that I don't know anything about this property, I will tell you that it sounds like it's zoned for this activity to be by right, so it would not be subject to the homestay permit or things like that. They could advertise on whatever platform they want. They may have their own website. We see that a lot, where a standalone business has its own advertising, its own website, but they'll also list on
Sure.
VRBO and Airbnb.
Yeah.
I'm not sure if that answers your question or not, whether that's escaping the, or getting around the homestay ordinance or not, but I don't think the homestay ordinance is going to apply to this.
Well, so if it's by right, why are we doing the special permit?
I can't answer that.
It's not by right. We're having a
Well,
vote.
it's, in the RC district, like a commercial lodging is a special use permit approval required.
Oh, got it. Okay, so it's not specifically disallowed, but it's allowed with.
The special use permit, correct.
Okay.
But it'll have to pay the taxes. Maybe it might not go through the special Airbnb route, but as a business, it'll pay taxes. Yeah, okay.
I'd imagine so.
And lodging.
Any other questions?
Mr. Taxman.
Mr. Snook?
Nope.
Okay, how are people feeling about this?
I'm fine with it.
I'm inclined to support it.
This feels like one of those things that I think the BAR might be familiar with, where it feels like statutorily they have to do one thing, even if their heart's not necessarily in it.
The BAR or the Planning Commission?
The BAR, like what we were talking about in some of the, they said, well, anyway, that was just comparing how they were like, this house might not be that great, but I still have to vote to keep it the way it is. This is kind of a little bit how I feel, where, it would be nice if it was a house where people lived all the time, but it feels like this is allowed, and I can't, say I don't want to do this just because I don't want to do this.
I would just say I plan to vote against it because of that concern, but I think these uses are special use permits for a reason, and it's at our discretion to evaluate adverse neighborhood impacts and whether it's correct use. In my mind, a special use permit doesn't mean once owner acquires a property, they're legally granted or morally granted that use. It's up to our discretion. So I definitely hear the other arguments, but that's where I'm at. And again, also just the concern about in this neighborhood or other historically black neighborhoods, Airbnb is the big one, but I think proliferation of maybe short-term rental is not the technically right term, but Airbnb or formal bed and breakfast uses is one of the biggest concerns I hear about. But
If you don't mind, I can speak to those concerns a little bit, where the RNA zoning district was sort of designed with that, like the historical context, and historically, the RNA district was established to, pardon me. Here we go. The RNA zoning district was established to safeguard and promote the historical and cultural significance of downtown neighborhoods, which I think sort of speaks to what Councilor Payne was going towards. And it is worth noting that, that section of Ridge Street is pretty uniformly RC south of Dice Street. North of that is where you get into those node mixed uses as you start to head towards downtown. But along the Ridge Street corridor, it is zoned RC and not that RNA zoning district that if you look at if you have a copy of the staff report, you can see both to the east and west of the Ridge Street corridor, it is zoned RNA with that sort of consideration in mind. So it is within very close proximity. However, the zoning map doesn't really, it's worth considering that proximity, but it's not held to the same standard as that RNA zoning district is.
Certainly, and obviously those designations are not exactly scientific where exactly the line is drawn, but certainly in practice, this is part of the Ridge Street neighborhood.
Sure.
Yeah. And one other point I would make for some of your concerns and similar concerns are that the preventing this is not the same as increasing opportunity elsewhere. So this vote yes, let this be Airbnb, but we still have opportunities to vote for and increase opportunity for infill in areas throughout the city, which will create more opportunities for people to find housing. So those can be done simultaneously.
Yeah, I agree. So would someone care to move the question? Move the
I was
resolution?
wondering if it looks like we're going to be split.
I don't think so. I think it's
I was
3 to
having
1.
a hard time reading somebody then.
I'm planning to vote for this.
As am
think
I.
Councilor Oshrin is as well.
I will vote for it as well.
Who would move the resolution?
I'll move the resolution.
Who will second it?
I'll
Okay.
second.
Please cast your votes. Thank you, sir. Appreciate your time. Okay. Item 17,
Housing assistance.
resolution to appropriate a grant of public funds for housing assistance to low and moderate income homeowners within the city. Mr. Divers will present.
Yes, sir, Mr. Vice Mayor, members of council, Mr. City Manager, Madam Clerk. Don't want to leave anybody out. This is the CHAP ordinance, which I bring to you guys every year. Charlottesville Charlottesville Homeowner Assistance Program. This program is a grant that you folks approve to the Director of Social Services in his capacity as the Social Services Board in the city of Charlottesville. We administer the program under a cooperative agreement. I come up, make estimates for the budget, and then my staff does the intake and all those sorts of things. So this year, as the agenda memo lays it out, this is what the program's going to look like. The maximum home value that can qualify is $62,000. That's the household income limit, $62,100, and then the threshold on the home is $525,000 this year. Those numbers are pegged to certain statistics that kind of change with changes in home value and median area income. If you have any questions, I'm happy to take them.
The total of this is 1.1 million?
Yes, sir. That's based on an estimate. Last year, we spent on this program a little over $1 million, 1.06. And so that's where we're at. We served about 500 households last year.
I think it's good to note that item 1 says grantee must be a human being.
Yes, it can't be an LLC or a corporation or something like that.
We're not Delaware.
What? What'd you say?
We're not Delaware.
That's right.
You said 500 families. Did that meet demand? Was there demand beyond that went unmet?
No, I don't think so.
Is that about right?
Yeah. We try to get the word out the best we can. This is one of 3 programs that we run in my office. We've got one for elderly and disabled folks, and we've got a rent program. This one is not age limited. It's I think it's pretty well known. We do some advertising, did some spots on TV. I'll have some coming up again, so, yeah, I think we do a pretty good job getting the word out.
Now, I would guess the greatest limiting principle is just every year more and more houses exceed that maximum assessed value limit of $525,000.
It does, but we now have that pegged, that number is pegged to the average assessed value of a single-family home in the city. So it moves, you know, with the assessments now.
Right.
Made that change a few years ago.
Okay. Any other clarifying questions? Would someone like to move the resolution?
I would move resolution appropriating a grant of public funds for housing assistance to low and moderate income homeowners within the city of Charlottesville, Virginia.
Second.
All right, please cast your votes.
Thank you all.
Thank you, Mr. Tigers.
Good evening.
Okay, item 18, resolution to adopt a lease agreement with the Dogwood Vietnam Memorial Foundation for maintenance and operation of the memorial area at McIntyre Park. Mr. Rion Anthony, please.
Thank you so much. Thank you, Vice Mayor and Council. I'm Rian Anthony, Director of Parks and Rec. Again, a resolution to adopt a lease for the Dogwood Vietnam Memorial Foundation. A little background on this, we do have as I like to call, a loose agreement at the moment, but we really want to have a updated agreement, and that is why we're here today to present a updated lease agreement so that it outlines maintenance and then also minor construction that happens on that site.
Okay,
If you
to
have
be
any
clear, this
questions-
doesn't include anything with bridges or anything like that. This is just maintenance of the.
There is a
the site.
pedestrian bridge access clause.
Yep.
In section A, number 2.
And that's the pedestrian clause that as you're walking from McIntyre, the bridge that we just constructed for the skate park, and then there's a footpath all the way leading up to the.
So that's
memorial.
different.
So that's the existing bridge.
That's existing. This is not anything new.
Okay, sorry to interrupt you. Was there a presentation or any more you wanted to say, or?
If you have any questions,
Okay.
Please ask.
I'm fully supportive. I guess you might have covered a little, but I'm just curious, what does this allow to happen that there currently are issues doing or that cannot be done?
So, very good question. At the moment, as we are all aware, they are doing a bit of fundraising. At the moment, they would like to sell bricks and expand the footprint out there. And as we looked at our agreement that we have, we thought we'll add the language that needs to be in there so that they can also fundraise and add those bricks to the current site.
And because we want to make sure that there's an agreement, an actual document that matches everything that we've established as relates to partnerships across all city properties.
So there's 2 sections that talk about the pedestrian bridge access, and it says the city will engage with DVMF in good faith and take all reasonable action to allow and assist them in the planning, construction, development, and approval of pedestrian bridge, multi-use trail, and associated parking lot to provide improved handicap public access to leased premises. So that doesn't specify what bridge or when. So how do we know that that's the existing bridge? Because that sounds like a future project.
The intent is for the existing.
Where's that now?
Well, it's on page 3 of 9 of the land lease. And since that's not specified, I think that could easily be construed to be supportive of a new bridge. And I don't know if that's something that we want to have in here if we're not ready to commit to that yet. And then so what could we do about that?
Well, of course, I support the bridge, but, if you wanted to.
Because one of the other things that I'm.
Is it okay if we invite the gentleman from the Dogwood up to talk with us? Is that okay?
Sure, but I've got another question about
Go ahead.
this specific lease in general. If one of the kind of Occam's razor solutions to the accessibility issue is moving the memorial closer to the existing bridge. Does this prevent that?
Good question. I don't think.
It doesn't prevent anything.
It does not prevent anything.
Steve Friedman on behalf of the Dogwood Vietnam Memorial Foundation.
Yeah.
Can you repeat your question? I'm sorry. I think there might be a misunderstanding here about
Yes, so
something.
I've got two. One is there's two sections in here that talk about a pedestrian bridge access in the future tense. And then one that, and then in general, since it's a lease, I'm assuming it's a lease for a specific plot. And if the solution, the easiest solution to get better handicapped and pedestrian access to the memorial is to move the memorial closer to the existing bridge and parking lot instead of building a whole new bridge and parking lot, does this mean that that's no longer an option?
I think there was a disconnect somewhere, because this provision about the pedestrian access bridge is for a new bridge, was my understanding. So part of the reason we want this, we would like this lease, is to keep the memorial where it is now. We do not want to move the memorial. So that's why we're doing all the fundraising to help raise funds to create this additional new pedestrian bridge across John Warner, which is a separate issue from this. It's just mentioned in here as ongoing negotiations in good faith. If there's really a problem about that, I guess we could strike that from the lease, but that's up for debate. But we are talking about I helped draft this, so that's why I'm trying to explain. So the pedestrian bridge is a new bridge to be put on over John Warner is the idea that we're working with the city towards hopefully doing. Nothing has been approved on that front yet, but we are having to do a lot of fundraising now. We're trying to get started on that, and as Mr. Anthony said, part of the reason we want to get this lease is because this is a key to us opening the door to be able to fundraise and talk to bigger donors and foundations, try to get some more money to the project, which will be for the bridge, which is a separate. I hate to keep bringing up the bridge because it's a little confusing. So have I further confused everyone, or did we understand?
I don't think it's confusing, but I think the fact that we weren't sure means that maybe, I don't know if this is ready.
Well, one question is, I know you're opposed to it. Michael, how do you feel about this language as it is?
I mean, as I read the language, I'm fine with it. As I read the language, it was that the Dogwood Vietnam Memorial Foundation will engage in good faith with the city, which to me is not, I don't read any of it as a requirement or.
And the notion of moving the memorial,
Yeah, how come that's not an option?
It's a historical, where it is located, it's been there since April of 1965.
Wasn't it moved when the parkway was built?
No, that did not happen. They kept it exactly where it is. The flagpole and everything stayed where it is. So that's something very important to us because it's one of the first civic memorials to the Vietnam War in the country. And so we do not want to move it because it's always been on this same spot. And that's part of the reason why we're going through the effort of trying to build a new bridge in conjunction with the city to help with the access so we can keep the memorial exactly where it is.
Mm-hmm.
Could I just clarify? I mean, there's been mention of 3 different places where the bridge is discussed. 2 of them are on page 9. One just says the DVMF will engage with the city in good faith, and the other one says the city will engage with DVMF in good faith. Is there a 3rd reference to the bridge?
I think in paragraph 7, paragraph 7C2 talks about construction.
Okay.
And so it's just, again, it's saying that no improvements other than the expansion of the Memorial Plaza, which is the BRIC program that Mr. Anthony talked about, and that we mentioned the pedestrian bridge access project, subject to approval of the city, of course.
Gotcha.
So the good faith part, as Councilor Payne mentioned, it's just in there that we're going to talk in good faith and negotiate for it. So there's nothing definitive in here, one way or the other. It's just saying, hey, we're going to work together on this.
So I guess the one question I had was, is there anything in this document that requires that the city give approval to any changes that the Memorial foundation or fund is trying to accomplish?
The short answer is no. The Memorial Plaza expansion with the brick program, the council has already approved that. And then the pedestrian bridge project's the only other thing that we're talking about, and we're just talking about negotiating that going forward. There's nothing in there definitive. You're not committed to anything with this lease other than negotiating in good faith.
I guess what I'm wondering is, the lease designates a fairly expansive area that would be within your primary control. Is there anything in here that would prohibit you from saying, well, we want to take the back part of this hillside also and put in a swimming pool or a reflecting pool or something, I don't mean to be snide about it, but to do a major change that maybe the city would look at it and say, not so sure.
No, that is this construction paragraph on page 2 of 9 that I was just referring to, saying that this DMF cannot do that stuff unless we talk to the city about it. So the city's not committing to anything. We're basically just memorializing and formalizing the arrangement that we've been working under for a long time, just to get something more formal and put together and in here to help us with fundraising. And again, for us, makes us feel better to have a long-term lease because we're very concerned about the memorial and wanting to keep it where it is. And so that's why we...
I'm okay with the
Sure.
idea of having a long-term lease, but as I look at paragraph 2, I don't see anything that gives the city a right to say, we don't want you to do that.
Well, I see it in
Am I
the
missing
sentence,
something?
no improvements other than the expansion of the Memorial Plaza and the pedestrian bridge access thereto, subject
Oh,
to
I
approval
see.
from the city, may be installed on leased property without the consent of the city.
It says we can't do anything without your consent, other than
I
these
got
two things, is essentially what it says.
Including.
And I think you may have overstated it when you said well, I guess we just clarified that. You were
Yeah,
thinking
that's fine.
that we can go do
Now that-
whatever, but that's,
Now that I've read that sentence accurately, I understand.
okay, great.
But so technically, since the pedestrian bridge access is also subject to approval from the city, that's really included in the second part of that clause.
Correct. The city, by agreeing to this term as is now, would not be committed to anything with the pedestrian bridge other than negotiating with us about it.
Right, I'm saying another way of writing the sentence would be no improvements other than the expansion of the Memorial Plaza may be installed without the consent of the city.
So you're just talking about striking the pedestrian bridge
It has the
access.
same meaning as the
But it's-
existing sentence. I'm not saying we have to do that, I'm just clarifying that that has the same meaning.
Well, I mean, I can appreciate the fact that you don't support the bridge, and you want it to be closer to I can appreciate that.
Well, no, I'm just thinking about alternate options, because to me, I know we've had this discussion already, it is the most expensive possible solution, and it also involves building a parking lot and a parkway.
And again,
And those are-
I appreciate,
There's other options.
and
so
there are other options, and I think that the folks who've been involved in this from a very long time have looked at those options. I was at the event back in, when was it, 4 weeks ago, 3 weeks ago? Most of the people that are coming there are, in Walker, not most, but a lot of them. So the idea of moving this thing that's been there for 50 years over closer to the skate park to prevent, so that it's close enough for people that are aged to get to, none of those things make sense to me. I can
Well,
appreciate.
It's closer for people who are aged to get to. I mean, again, the question is, are we for accessibility or are we for building a bridge? I think those are not
I think-
necessarily the same.
I think that given the folks who have invested in this for 50 years, if they're able to raise the money and they want to put a parking lot across the road and a bridge, I'm okay with that. I can appreciate why you're not, and others as well, and at some point it'll come to a vote. But from my perspective, this lease is something that they've been working on for a long time.
And the lease is basically
It doesn't
nothing
commit
new.
anyone to do anything about a bridge.
Right, and I know, and so this lease, again, fine with the general principle of the lease for the space, but technically, linguistically, semantically, that sentence would be the same, would have the same meaning if the bridge part was not included, because that is still something that is subject to approval from the city, like anything else outside of the expansion of the Memorial Plaza.
But I think you've got it in there because you want to be able to continue dialogue that's been going on for years and taking that out.
Exactly, correct.
And I'm not suggesting you take it out, I'm just clarifying it
Okay,
has the same
that's
meaning.
fine. So, we've had a discussion. Is someone ready to vote on this? or-
I have a related question on, looking at that same sentence. You say no improvement other than the expansion of the Memorial Plaza. Is it clear that, what is meant by, I mean, obviously, you're removing that from the category of things that we would not be able to have any say over.
Because you've already had your say. There was a resolution that approved that project already.
The plaza.
December of 2020.
22.
We did that so that they could
Okay.
go raise money.
Okay,
Yeah.
that's fine then.
Does that need to, just for legalese, does that need to say per December 2020 resolution or something like that?
Doesn't have to.
Okay.
It's a standing agreement.
I mean, I wouldn't have a problem if you
I'm
want to
not
add
worried
that in
about
there.
I'm just,
And I'll just say, I completely understand why you would want to have the line in there, including the reference to pedestrian bridge access, because if you're trying to convince funders that it really is something to
Correct.
think about, the more it can be made clear, the better. So, I mean, if we're gonna go this way at all, it seems to me we ought to leave that in there.
Well, I
Someone
would
care to
move-
move the resolution or the further discussion?
I would move resolution approving the long-term lease between the City of Charlottesville and the Dogwood Vietnam Memorial Foundation.
I'll second it.
All right, any further discussion?
you briefly, for the paragraphs that mention pedestrian bridge access, reasonable action to allow and assist in the planning, construction, development, and approval.
Exactly where are you looking? I'm sorry.
Oh, yeah.
Page 3.
Page 3 of 9,
The two places.
yeah. Where it's got the
A2 and
DVMF
B2.
duties
Yeah,
and then the
duty
city
and obligations,
duties.
okay.
Yeah. I'm just wondering if that is neutral language.
The two paragraphs mirror each other. They say the city will act in good faith for all that stuff, and the DVMF will act in good faith. So I don't understand what you mean by not.
Yeah, no, I
Neutral.
understand that they match. Neutral as in assisting seems more proactive than we'll be voting on this at a later date, it's not necessarily happening.
Right.
Does it seem like a leading clause, like a leading question sort of thing? The neutrality of assisting there seems, I'm gonna have a hard time, I support the lease, that gives me pause.
But it seems to me that if each is agreeing to allow and assist the other, that suggests a mutuality of effort that would probably be what we want.
If we want a bridge and a parking lot in a park.
Okay. Michael, do you have any desire to modify this, amend this? I don't.
I'm fine with the lease as is.
I'm fine with it.
Okay, so we have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Okay, please cast your votes.
Okay.
All right, thank you, sir.
Thank you very
Good to
much.
see you.
Thanks.
Okay, item 19, resolution to allocate $41,500 from the FY26 HOPS of the FY26 Charlottesville Affordable Housing Fund as an emergency grant to Blue Ridge Area Coalition for the Homeless. This was the emergency piece that you guys raised for us, right?
Yes, it is. It's
Okay.
part two of it. Good evening, Vice Mayor Pinkston, council members, members of the public. Antoine Williams, your Housing Program Manager. The item, as Vice Mayor Pinkston read, is part two of an action for emergency grant for the the Blue Ridge Area Coalition for the Homeless. Some distinction about this action is that it comes from a different funding line. So within the FY26 budget, this item was included for funding for, out of the Charlottesville Affordable Housing Fund, which has a limited competitive funding opportunity for support for housing opportunity, housing operations and program support. A contextual omission here, just for clarity here, in your background section, it says that the CAF committee made a recommendation for an allocation of $788,000. It should also say after that, and a allocation of $460,000, $574,000 for HOPS, which left council with a balance for discretionary spending, which is what these funds are coming out of. So there are no budgetary impacts, if you will. And why we're here tonight is because BRAC had lost critical external grants, which presented an immediate need to support them to continue operations and to allow for critical services to continue. As many of you know, BRAC is our continuum of care agency in the region. BRAC provides key housing services, and without the support, there's a risk that these services are interrupted. Staff is recommending allocating the $41,500 from the HOPS budget fiscal year FY26 for the Emergency Supportive Housing Grant. Staff is further recommending that you approve this item tonight to allow us to move towards the agreement phase for both of those items simultaneously.
Okay, any clarifying questions?
So the 41.5 would come out of the 114,426?
That's correct.
Any other questions? Michael, Natalie?
No, I can never remember what this isn't listed as one of two readings, but what the dollar amount is that requires two readings, and if we need to technically waive a second reading if you want it tonight. I just can't remember what that dollar amount actually is.
I think because the funding was already appropriated, then this is just an allocation of those funds that were already designated for a purpose.
Okay, so no waiving necessary.
Thank you.
Thank you.
But if we wanted to waive it, we could.
It's a good question though, Michael.
Yeah, in that case, I'd be happy to move the resolution to allocate the $41,500 from the HOP support program as an emergency grant to the Blue Ridge Area Coalition for the Homeless.
Second.
And to do it as one reading?
I think we don't
have to.
We don't have to, okay.
Right.
Cast your votes, please.
Was there a second?
Yeah, I second.
Okay.
Thank you, sir. Okay, item 20 is a confidential settlement agreement, which we've already discussed. Would someone please move this?
I'll move its approval.
Second.
Okay, please cast your votes. All righty, and now we're back to, this is like, was it Candyland, where you get a certain place and you come back?
Chutes and ladders.
Chutes and ladders,
Gentlemen,
that's it.
we gotta, what was it, reset?
Revote. Got it, thank you. Come on down, sir. So this is item 7 from the consent agenda. Resolution to appropriate $150,000 for the Virginia Department of Criminal Justice Services Operation Ceasefire Grant Program.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Well, so Vice Mayor, councilors, city manager, public, thank you for being here, sir. I appreciate you, the opportunity to talk about this. So Peregrine, so I will start with this, and many of you know, I'm not a tech guy. I'm as skeptical about technology as many people are. That being said, Peregrine is basically a software that brings all of our systems together. We have a lot of systems. Our Axon body-worn camera system, you have to remember those body cams are on all the time. So they may not be recording, well, they are recording every time. They go back 30 seconds once they put them on, so technically they're always on. Our records management systems, our computer-aided dispatch systems, any type of crime analyst type systems that we have, they're all separate. And one of the problems that we're seeing now as we're moving, as we have our community stat meetings every month where we look at the data of what's going on in the city, everything from traffic data to crime data, it's all over the place. I'll give you an example. Recently at our community stat meeting, we were talking about traffic crash data. And I said, how many crashes involve bikes? I don't know. Can't answer it. The reason being is because when you look at crash data, a crash report, it either involves a pedestrian or it doesn't. It doesn't separate whether it was a bike or not. And so someone actually has to sit down, dig into every accident report, into the narrative, and try to find some mention of a bike. And so this will help with that. It finds it for us. Like any report, anything involving a bicycle, it would be able to find it. And I'm often asked these questions about this data, and oftentimes I don't have the answer. It will also allow us to integrate like the data we're getting from our anchor team now. So the anchor team is getting all kinds of data, all the stuff they're going to, and we're kind of trying to see what are they doing, where are they being successful, how can we work within the different systems that the anchor team is working in. So the anchor team is a police officer, a paramedic, and a peer counselor. All three of those have different systems. And so none of them are integrated. So a few jurisdictions, one I know very well that integrated this system, Peregrine, Alexandria. So Alexandria has actually implemented Peregrine throughout the entire city government. And so it integrates the court systems, council, clerk systems, police systems, the jail systems, and it allows, say, a crime analyst to sit down and say, hey, I'm looking for this data, and it has access to all of those. The privacy issues that I think were brought up earlier, I didn't hear the whole thing, but to sit, and again, without getting into details about AI and all that, because I'll be honest with you, I can't speak on all the emerging AI technologies. But I'll say this, that Peregrine is what's called CJIS compliant. CJIS stands for Criminal Justice Information Systems. It is a system throughout the country that basically says this is a secure system. It can be used for criminal justice purposes, meaning the data that we have connects to VCIN and CIC systems, and so it is safe to be used for that. Any officer or employee that has access to those systems has to go through CJIS training in order to have access to it. That includes the executive director of the Police Civilian Oversight Board, who is CJIS compliant, who's been through the training. Currently, she has access to all of those systems I just mentioned within the police department and would have access to this as well.
I see. Okay.
And
I guess Peregrine is like a leading industry provider or whatever for police forces.
Yeah, it's a provider just like Axon, just like Tyler New World, who does our records management systems, just our CAD system.
And so would they have like someone who comes and like sets the system up for you, I guess?
Yeah, I think, I'm assuming that's what happens when they do that, or it may be done, I don't know.
And this grant was just sort of offered by the state, or y'all applied for it, or?
We applied for it.
And is the, two questions. What other database companies like this exist? Like, is there competition?
The only other one I know of is a company called Fuchsius. I think Axon actually owns that company, does the same thing, integrates all those different systems. So it's the only other one I know of.
How do you spell that?
I don't want to lie to you. Probably Fuses maybe. I don't know for sure.
Okay, we'll do a Google. And then my question was going to be, is this information stored locally on our own database?
It is.
But then it also is accessible from
Peregrine?
a cloud somewhere?
Yeah, so Peregrine uses the same data storage system that our current Axon body-worn camera storage system uses, AWS servers.
So our data is stored locally and
Yes, in the cloud. I guess so. Yeah, and they use AWS servers. That's what we currently use for all our stuff.
And what protections are there for that information?
So whatever protections that CJIS requires for AWS to hold that data in the cloud. I don't know the detail. I mean, that would be a very tech question. I could maybe get you an answer to.
I guess, I mean...
But whatever security systems that Amazon Web Services use for their data.
Yeah, technically, but also like legally. Like, you need a warrant to get whatever, or how is it accessible by anyone who wants that information?
So you wouldn't need a warrant because it's our data. So I can't like execute a warrant on ourselves. Right, so that's because we own the data. And so all it's doing is integrating the current data that we have.
But like some other agency comes in and says, we want information on this person.
Yeah, well, so it would depend what it is. So like a citizen can do a FOIA request and ask for, like I said, how many accidents involving bicyclists did you have last year? Now, we currently don't have that accessible, right? But if we did, if they did a FOIA request, we would have to provide that to them. So you can get it via FOIA request. Criminal justice, like sensitive information from another agency, it depends what it was, but it could be a court order or a search warrant. It would just depend on what kind of case they're working, what agency it is, stuff like that.
And oh shit, what was my question? It'll come back to me.
No problem.
Yeah, thank you.
Michael?
No, I mean, I don't have any other additional questions. I think that covered, the questions I'd have. I think it's a similar conversation to Flock in that, there are these protections. I don't, I completely understand and don't have issue with kind of the proposed local uses that concern. I am just kind of a civil libertarian in that, on the one hand, the amount of data already out there, the amount of information, even just from Ring cameras, is going to far exceed whatever possible violation there could be here. But I do feel similar to Flock, and I'm just uncomfortable with building out any technological system that's bringing together different streams of data, because I think once that technology exists, you see at the federal level, you pretty easily can get to a place where whatever is legal protection exists can very easily be overcome, should there be an administration at the federal level who has enough commitment to do that. And I know this is a very small in the scale of all that, but that's kind of where my concern comes from, is just that kind of larger civil libertarian concern.
Okay. Roy, do you have anything?
Yeah, one of the things that Mo had said earlier was that the data would be owned by Peregrine.
That's not accurate.
Okay.
It seems like this is like, I'm really dumbing this down for my own sake, but it's like if you've got Google Workspace that's running your shop at work, and you've got all kinds of plugins and all sort of different things that might work in that ecosystem or platform. You can choose Google, or you can choose Microsoft 365, Office, whatever it is. You could choose whatever Apple has. That would be my analogy for what you're sort of proposing, just in terms of the data streams that you've got in your...
Correct. Right now, we can't answer those. When we're asked about this data, if it doesn't exist, or if we can't readily get it, we don't have it, right? And so like the example I used about, again, and this is just, I bring this example because it was recent about, and I'll be honest, it's frustrating not to know, how many of our crashes involve bikes. I don't know that answer. But that's just one example. How many crashes involve somebody with a stroller? There's getting into those minute details and stuff. We just don't have the capacity to dig through every single report. That's just one thing. How do we know the Anchor team has enough capacity to do what they're doing? I know they're busy. I could say that. I know they're busy, but I don't have specifics.
So I remembered what my question was going to be, which is, what is your current database and tracking system?
Which one? We have a lot.
Well,
So we have LMRS.
more than
which
just an Excel spreadsheet, right? So
we use a lot of Excel spreadsheets. We have Tyler New World is the company we use for our records management system and our computer-aided dispatch through the ECC. So we have that. Axon is what we use for our body cam systems, for our internal affairs tracking system. Most of that is still in paper. We can have a larger conversation about technology, but we're probably about 20 years behind.
And so, like, your police reports are...
We're behind.
In a box somewhere?
No. They're electronic.
Yeah.
Right, but it's just a really clunky system.
And so the report is written up, but it's not transferred. It's not
into
coded with anything.
No, it's transferred into our records management system. So an officer does the report, right, and sends it into the records management system, and then has to get approved by a supervisor. But again, there's a lot of different systems, because you have that, right? The officer does a report, but then you have the body cam footage of that incident related to that report. That's a different system.
Right.
And they don't talk.
But so that system, that the records management system that you currently have, there's no way to search bike in it.
No, and well, it's so, when you talk about car accidents, right? Car accidents, it's a state system. It's a state report called FR 300. It goes into a separate system called TREADS. That's a state, all accident reports have to go into that. And it doesn't track the difference between a person being struck by a car and the person on a bike being struck by a car. So what would have to happen is an officer or one of our civilian personnel would have to sit down and dig through the narrative of each one of those reports to find the mention of, well, did it involve a bike or not? Where this system, my understanding of it, it could find all that by just punching that into the system.
So is this something that we want to come back to 2 weeks from now?
Well, and this is one of two votes tonight,
Yeah.
or one of two readings tonight anyway, so
Right.
no
No
vote
vote
would be.
tonight.
Right, so do we want to just go ahead and, I mean, is there any further conversation tonight? We put it on the action items for next time? Would
I
that
think
give people?
another public hearing would be good.
So have it as an action item, not as part of the consent agenda? Okay. Are you okay with that?
Yeah, and to be honest,
Can we give it one?
I'd like to talk to Mo, maybe off of the record here, to find out more about what he's talking about, because he's raised some serious questions that we ought to have some answers to.
And I could have somebody from the company to actually talk about the details, to come and maybe speak and answer those questions as a fact.
I mean, I will tell you that my suspicion of unified databases has grown substantially in the last 4 months.
Yeah.
Yeah. And,
Sure.
and
I mean, I agree. I mean,
Tina said it wasn't a
it's-
public hearing, so we might need to,
I don't
Talk
think it
about
has to be a public hearing, it's just, it's a second reading as if it were.
Right, it'd be a second reading,
Maybe a
and
second-
anyone that wants to speak
anybody wants
about
to
it
come
would speak
speak
during
and-
community
the
matters.
community matters?
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay?
Before we
But-
end, what is the question? Like, what more information is it that you're seeking? Because I'm not sure I'm convinced.
Yeah, I mean, what more information do you want, or what?
During the meeting, I've been trying to Google and so on, and I found the website, but I also found portions that seem to be tied in, written in Ukrainian, and a few other things like that make, I just want to know more about the whole thing, and in particular about the security, the cybersecurity kinds of issues.
And like I said, other jurisdictions, and I could get it, that are currently using it citywide, like I said, City of Alexandria is currently using it, Loudoun County is currently using it, I think Arlington,
Do you know when Alexandria got it?
several years ago.
Yeah, because I would agree that under a different federal administration, there would probably be different inclinations.
Sure. Just let me know what
So
information
so
you
one
need,
of the
and I can-
issues is, where is the data going to be?
Right now? Or no, we will still own the data.
Right, but
It just brings all those
that's not
together.
exclusive.
Nothing
not-
we
it's
have
not
is
local.
exclusive, though. I mean,
Yeah, but,
we can't assume that.
yeah, I mean, everything's on the cloud now, and the AWS
Yeah,
is.
it's all there. It's in the same system.
So maybe, is it okay if we take a week?
I'm
to
just
sort of-
looking for what is it that you would like us to bring back to you?
Can we have a few days to formulate some questions?
Sure.
Okay, let's do that. Is that okay?
Yeah.
Okay.
That'd be perfect.
Thank you.
All right, thank you for hanging out.
Yeah, thank you. Have a good night.
So
Wait,
we are
hang
now.
on, Michael had something.
Well, I was just gonna say, it sounded like the concerns, I don't know, this probably isn't that helpful, because I don't know what the specific question is, but just, to what extent does the centralization of data and where it's stored open up new opportunities, either through bad cybersecurity practices or a
Overzealous.
overzealous administration? What new access points for getting data would they have, if any? I don't know if that's capturing your question, Lloyd, but that's kind of what I heard.
If I could get the question just emailed to me, then I could develop the
Okay.
answers and
Yeah.
hopefully answer them.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right, see you, Chief. We are now at the final speaking opportunity for members of the public. Individuals may raise your hand. I see one. Come on up, sir. 3 minutes.
I think the particular question that you should ask is maybe to get the city attorney to look at what exactly the privacy rights are. Let me put it this way. The entire thing that's going on in Silicon Valley right now is that some clever startup firm is going to offer some kind of service either to a company or to the government that streamlines and makes things easier for them. That's unquestionably, like, yes, centralizing all of their, like, things so that it's easy to look at is going to make life easier for the Charlottesville Police Department. But it comes with this condition of them having access to the data, right? There is no way that, given the amount of, like, what they offer, right, the amount of analysis that they offer, that the people at Peregrine will not have access to this data as well. The fact that it's all stored on AWS means nothing. Everything is stored on AWS, like 90% of everything on the internet. You should not be concerned about whether it is secure to hacking. You should be concerned over what Peregrine is going to do with that information. So my request would be, like, it's so hard. They intentionally obfuscate, I think, exactly like how much they do. If you look on their website, they won't even admit that they use AI. It's only in, like, conferences where they go with like-minded people that they start admitting that this is like an AI firm. It's all very questionable. So yes, I would say bare minimum, you need to have the city attorney look into what rights Peregrine has to use whatever data that you give them in this. That's my big thing. You should not be worried about it getting hacked. I'm sure that it's all very safe.
Well,
Thank you.
Go ahead.
No, thank you for your comments.
I was just going to say, I think there's a big overlap with the concern about Flock, and that I think the open business model of those companies was to create, and which is why they're giving it to local police departments and cities for free, is so they can collect that data, then they can connect it with other data points, and they can monetize it either as part of a national surveillance tool they can sell to federal law enforcement agencies at the federal level or locally, and then they can also monetize data if they have a database of every car, where it's been and at what time, and then they can connect that to data from phone location or advertising data. So I think there's, anyway.
Yeah, the parent company and donors have gotten a no-bid contract for an immigration tracking software program to build that. So if we're feeding into that, I think
Yeah.
that
We still
there are
have to, like,
concerns.
yeah, fair enough, yeah. We're now at the final speaking opportunity. We've already talked about that. With no further business, is there a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
A second? Please cast your vote.
Second.
Great, thank you all.
Done.